Heavenly Father, as we look to Thee this morning, we're thankful for all the blessings of life. Especially, Father, are we thankful for the eve of Easter, the beginning of our risen Savior. We're thankful, Father, that He did arise again, that through Him we might have eternal life. Father, we just pray that as we go through this meeting, that we might know Thy leading. We pray that we might bring our hearts to obedience to Thy leading. Forgive us of all of our sins. Bless us according to Thy will, for Jesus' sake. Amen.
We have a number of items of business we want to dispose of this morning. Before we get into the regular order of business, we've got a visitor with us. We want to give an opportunity to talk to you for a few minutes. After our last board meeting, in accordance with the decision of the board on setting up a severance plan for employees of the council, Brother Schaefer, Brother Knight, myself, Ms. Phillips, went over to the First Federal and made some inquiries. And had an audience with Mr. Cabot, who handles a lot of the work over there. Find out exactly what arrangements could be made and what the legal aspects were and things of that kind. And because of the complication of the situation, and it is more complicated than I realized myself when we got into it, I thought it'd be good to ask Mr. Cabot to come over this morning, explain to you what would be expected of us, and also discuss the possibility of engaging him to set the plan up for us. He is an attorney and an accountant, I believe, also.
Certified accountant. Certified.
So, would you like me to read your letter, Mr. Cabot, or you just want to?
No, say, well, whatever you think best, Mr. Ramsey.
Well, he wrote me a letter. You might like to read the letter as a starting point, maybe.
Yes. All right. As Mr. Ramsey told you, they came to see me, and I have had some experience I deal with. Like I say, I'm a certified public accountant, I'm an attorney at law. And my business, principally, I stay strictly with taxes and with real estate. And so they come to see me, and of course the first question I asked, I knew y'all were bound to be a non-profit organization. But I knew when you got into this, you had to deal with internal revenue. So I asked the question, and I said, have you contacted internal revenue? And they said, no, but we will. I said, all right, y'all do. So that's then Mr. Ramsey called me back. Is that correct, Mr. Ramsey?
Of course, Jack now, he's done quite a bit of communicating back and forth with the internal revenue people and with Mr. Caddis. Do you want to say anything in connection with this before we?
Well, only that
it is a complicated situation.
It is a little complication here.
Yeah.
The internal revenue did not completely reveal what we needed to know, or we felt that they did not. They told us that as best they understood, we would be guided by Section 401A of Internal Revenue Code, which was nonprofit. But we might be dealing within two sections. Mr. Cabot might have found out something different from this.
No, sir. I tell you, I have not, I have not explored it any further, because that's the reason I left till we met this morning.
Yes, right.
And in our discussion, or in my discussion with him, and Mr. Eastman was the man I was talking with over there, the thing that was confusing him a little bit was on how we were going to treat, or how we would treat vested rights and so forth of the council's money. So this is some of the things that we felt that we would need help on. And this determination had not been made by you people
we have had a kind of a meeting of the minds of the people involved, and we're of the opinion that vested rights should begin after 5 years. Everybody employed, right? And that's what we agreed?
I thought we agreed 2 years.
2 years?
We'd have to set up for 2 years.
Huh?
Didn't we talk about it?
I don't know that we ever made a final
We
decision.
didn't make a final decision, but we
Uh,
talked about the difference in 2 and 5.
We talked about the present employees now have 5.
So it wouldn't affect anybody
But
who's on
it-
payroll now, but the new ones coming in.
Well, we discussed the fact that, why would employees have to wait 5 if the officers would be on a period of 2-year elected terms? Don't you remember? You said there would be no difference.
You can see what
Hmm?
we
Yeah.
accomplished here.
Yeah.
I thought though, I
I don't see
thought.
why employees should be discriminated against.
Well, maybe I
for 5 years.
misunderstood it, but I thought we agreed that, that the present employees, participants, each one of them had at least 5 years.
There'd be no question.
That any new employee coming in would not have vesting rights as far as the council's contributions concerned, until after a period of 5 years.
Well, I have to talk with my business day before
Well,
we
y'all
agree to
better have-
that, I can't say that we agree to that.
Y'all
That
better have a
sounds too long.
conference
But it's called-
To
But,
me,
huh?
that's too long.
Well,
Stay in
anyhow,
a hurry.
we'll have to make a determination about when vesting rights begin. Now, as I understand it, the employee's contribution, if that person left the employment of the council before they reached the period of vesting rights, their contribution naturally be returned to them.
Yeah.
But the vesting rights centers around the contribution on the part of the organization.
Unless this was the same stipulation you set up for officers.
Huh?
Unless this was the same stipulation you set up for
Well, it's
officers.
gonna have to be set up uniformly for
Well,
everybody.
I mean,
I think so.
if that was the same for both, I mean, we might agree to it, but I wouldn't think ours should be 2 and y'all's, I mean,
Well,
y'all's 2
probably
and
2
ours
years
5.
since it is on a lengthy basis. I don't see any real problems there myself. Go ahead, Mr. Gaddis, we'll work this one out a little later on.
Well, I don't,
This is one of the problems of vesting, right?
yeah, vesting, well, that's
This
anything,
has to be resolved.
cause like what she says, and then you, the way you put it, Ramsey, that internal revenue is not gonna let this thing discriminate. That's one thing it will not do, discriminate in favor of officers or someone else.
Right,
It's got to be, so.
It has to be a uniform
It has to be,
plan.
that's right, they will not
With the
accept.
same vested rights for all.
Right, you cannot discriminate against,
I'm glad of that.
You want him to be business.
Right, need to.
So, well, I don't know what, I'm kind of getting, I don't know where we start. I think what you need to do is, you need a motion, I
Yeah.
guess, to, give authority to proceed with it.
Well, we've already got that motion.
Have you?
They've already challenged you to, took this action in previous meetings. We've got the authority to move on it now. The thing we need to do now is for you to outline us a resolution, to adopt, including all of these things we must do in that resolution. This is just a broad resolution adopted, authorizing the, committee to proceed, making the arrangements. Won't we have to deposit some kind of a resolution with you, First Federal over there?
No, sir, not yet, I don't think. I think that all you, probably what you, as you say, if you've got all you need now. Is a resolution to, to proceed and go ahead and do it. Now, the only thing is for us to work out with internal revenue.
Yeah.
Then we will draw up a, trust fund, which then I think after it's approved by the internal revenue and all, then we incorporate, make that part of your minutes, we'll incorporate the trust fund, the trust agreement in the minutes.
Yeah, well, this is really what I had in mind when I,
Mr. Chairman, even though our previous meeting, did take care of the establishing of a trust fund or a severance fund or whatever you might wanna call it, at this point, it might be appropriate that we actually have a motion and second and approval that First Federal be empowered to handle this fund. Maybe
No,
this,
excuse me, Mayor, no, I don't think that's in order yet.
it's not in order yet,
No,
that's
not
too,
in order.
we're
I
not
don't
that
believe-
far.
No, I don't know what your motion was before, but I'm talking off the top of my head now, and, don't take this, don't take it down, but I think if it wasn't, I think what you need is a motion, something to this effect, that, it'd be moved that, I believe y'all appointed trustees, were they 5 of them, named
Yes,
something?
5 vice presidents.
Name,
Trustees.
name the trustees to proceed to, contact internal revenue, find out what is necessary, and do whatever is necessary to, establish one.
Well,
Then
let me-
leave it back to where you will approve it once, it's in, after it's been approved by the internal revenue in real form. And don't, like I say, First Federal, no one needs to be named at this time. I think, as I say, all you need is to, what y'all have already done, I believe, is name the people
Yes.
that,
Well, and
you know,
then,
got the
then
responsibility.
authorize us to employ you to set it up. This is what we really need. I think.
That needs to be in the motion.
This needs to be in the motion that we employ Mr. Callis to proceed to set this, make the arrangements for the plan. We really need that.
I so move.
All right. We have a motion that we employ Mr. Callis to work out arrangements to set up the trust fund.
I would second that.
Any further discussion? Not all in
Yeah,
favor?
that's, I would, of course, it's always an order on,
Yes.
is in relation to finance, what's it gonna cost to employ him to do this.
Yes.
I'm glad you asked that, I put it, when you, all you gentlemen know, businessmen all, Mr. Ramsey asked me this question. One of the first things he asked me, went to figure it out.
Yeah, I didn't overlook that.
You didn't overlook it, by the way. And the only thing I could tell him, naturally, if you don't know what's involved, when you get into something like this, and I told him that all it built on a time and effort motion, is, whatever time it took. And I cannot quote y'all a fee, because I don't know. But I would estimate, I can't see how it would cost over $100.
Well, the general idea is what I had in
Yes,
mind.
yes, and like I said, Mr. Ramsey, that's the
You
first
didn't want us
question
to
he
go
asked.
broke with him, did you?
That's right. Well, you
No, but
can't-
I
you
promise
can't-
you,
Putting the
it's a
fund.
real
Let him get all your
pleasure.
fun.
You can't get into those things and leave loopholes like this to continue.
No, it's a real pleasure to be up here, meet with y'all, and real honor to work with you. But, as I say, I can't say just what it will, but whatever, it'll be, I promise you, it'll be a reasonable rate, and like I say, I can't hardly conceivably see how it costs over $100.
We have any more discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Well, do you have anything else you need to talk to us about, Mr. Callis?
Not unless anyone has a question for me, Mr.
Let's
Ramsey.
see if there's, have you got any questions now you want to pose to Mr. Callis?
Yes, in relation to this vesting rights, of course, I know there's quite a few different ways in which to set it up, but then we were talking in terms of, leaving there and, 2 or 5 years or whatever, even after that, should the employee or the officer leave, these, vesting rights, would that include interest accumulated on the fund?
Well, these are decisions you have to make. I guess you asked me if any, I do. What I need, I guess, who am I to contact? You, Mr. Ramsey, from now on?
Well, Mr. Schaefer is
Mr.
chairman of the
Right.
subcommittee
Mr.
that was set up, of the trustees, the 5 officers. Of course, you can, communicate with him or with us, but probably be best with
Probably
him
with
since he's
Mr.
chairman
Schaefer.
of
You have my phone number. Yes,
subcommittee.
I have your phone number.
Yes.
Yes, there's a lot of items that we need. Well, I said there wasn't much, but I guess there is. I should go down here.
Go ahead and read your
All right.
letter that you.
I just stated that in regard to the Servants Pay Trust Fund, which we've discussed. These are just the very basic things, and a lot of others, but these are the basic things. Well, first we want to know the purpose of the fund. Second, who's eligible to be covered under the fund. Then, how much of the participants to contribute. Then, how much is the council to contribute. And biggest item, which y'all have talked here, is the method of the vesting of the council's contributions. Now, I suggested, and just made a mere suggestion, do it any way you want to. But like I say, the Internal Revenue is going to make you put it where it cannot be discriminated against anyone. I suggested that you have a 50% investment after 5 years' time. Then 10% each year thereafter, so that in 10 years' time would be fully vested. Now you mentioned that, the earnings, the funds, the council's contributions. The earnings on those would accrue right to the people. They would have no right to this until such time, either 5 or 2 years. If y'all think 2 years, all right, we'll make 2 years. I'm just, like I said, still talking off the top of my head, and just all I'm doing is making suggestions. Say after 2 years' time, 20% would be vested, and then 10% each year thereafter for 10 years. It takes 10 years to do it. The reason for that is what you're trying to do is encourage them to stay, encourage them to to save. This is one of the biggest purposes of it. Anytime they leave, of course, they contribute their money to get it automatically come on back with the earnings on it.
They just get the interest on their earnings, somewhere
They get their money and their
interest.
right, but not on the council's contribution. And the tax consequence of it, would not be, they would have to pay tax on the earnings on their money, not on the earnings of the fund's money. And it's a nice tax consequence on it if, when they do leave, if they determined if they leave, completely leave, then they get a long-term capital gains treatment on it, which is a real tax benefit to them. But this is the biggest, one of the biggest items you're going to have to decide on.
Well, I think the major problem really in this whole thing is that decision on vesting rights. I don't see anything any more complicated than this.
That's right. That's something you all
Well,
have to determine.
this something probably that we need to act on today. We need to make a decision as to what, on the vesting rights part of it. Now, I thought we'd agreed to 5 years, but apparently we haven't. If we want to make it 2 years because of the elected term of office, this is all right with me. I see no complications here, but it'll have to be across the board.
Yeah, we'll have to get the same treatment.
Right.
Of course, I think it'd be appropriate to say at this point that we really do have conflicts by virtue of elected officers versus regular employees. And I think the governing factor will have to be around the elected officers council. By the same token, we've got to use some stopgaps, not for people that we might have in employment now.
Yeah.
But we've got to watch these, I work with tramp linemen and they're not too dependable. So it makes me pretty conscious of it. We don't want a person coming in for 6 months or 12 months employment and at their own volition.
Right.
Just pick up the council's money and walk off with it.
Yeah.
This
Well,
is
like
the kind of
Nick
thing.
said, though, the 20%, not get your full right till after 10 years. Now, this would be good.
Well, it would be good, it'd be bad.
If I was negotiating for you, I wouldn't negotiate nothing like that. I'd negotiate full vesting rights
after a certain period.
After a certain period of time, and then be it.
If you don't, you're gonna put the elected officer of the council at a disadvantage, cause
Sure you are.
they might not could serve for 4 years and they don't get reelected, and if they only got 10%, then that's all they're ever gonna get out of it. Or an employee either for that.
Because I'm at a disadvantage, I think I don't understand, I don't really know the organization, how it's set up or anything. The reason I suggested what I did is the reason was to encourage people to stay.
Well-
That's the reason I put it, you know.
If
spread
it
over
was left
time.
up to their choice, but you see, we've got two situations. You got an employee that's hired by the council, and as long as they're satisfactory, then it is a matter of them individually wanting to stay. But Mr. Ramsey and Mr. Knight is elected officers, and they have to be re-elected every 2 years, and also with all future officers of the council. So if you set up something that they have no vested rights, it wouldn't affect them because they both got about 8 years. But the next officer's elected, if he served 4 years and then got defeated, then under your plan, he'd have no vested rights. And I don't think that was our original intent.
Well, like I say, I did not know, I did not understand that.
Well, I think we agreed that the vesting rights is a benefit of yours, what you call a benefit.
Yeah.
And then if we take that benefit away from you, then you didn't get the benefit.
Yeah.
Well, where does this money go, should someone leave before the time is over? Where does this money go, back into the general fund?
It's split, those called, it's on the, excuse me, what would happen if you do set this up? Those are what they call lapses, and that is split up among the remaining people.
Be applied to the account of the
Remaining people,
On a proportionate basis of the time involved.
yes, sir.
This would be pretty complicated, because you got different rates of pay for all these people.
Looks like
That's
this
no
would go
problem.
back to the
It'll
general
lapse.
fund of the council. Why would it be the employee?
Once you pay it in,
Well, no,
you can't
once
get
the
it back.
once the council puts it in, it belongs to the trust fund, and the council cannot, the council can stop if they want to, but whatever they put in there, they can never come back.
Can it be credited on future payments?
No, sir.
No.
I say no, I'm shooting off the top of my head now.
Some it can.
I'd say under this system. Well, I'm just gonna make a motion that all employees and officers have full vested rights after 2 years' service.
I appreciate that.
100%?
second
Yes, sir.
I'll second that.
Then, all right, before you, excuse me, I'm not, here just, as y'all come, I want to, to clarify and make y'all fully understand what you're doing, is what, all right, then, each year, whenever the contribution comes in, it's automatically vested.
That's right.
Everybody understand that?
After the 2 years. 2 years
After 2
service
years.
on each
Well,
individual.
it'd be automatically with everybody you
Right.
got now anyway.
Right.
The new employee would be
That's right.
2
No,
years.
they're gonna have to put, I'm sitting here listening, but no matter how long they've been, they've still gotta put in, I think,
From the inception of the plan?
from the inception of the plan, I believe. But we can, I got to go back and study some of my code here, but,
I mean, even now, we'd have to wait 2 years before we had vesting rights?
That wasn't our intention.
wasn't your intention?
No.
Our intent is
we
to
gonna-
full
vested
vested rights
immediately?
at the inception of the program for the present people. Then set a time limit on new people,
New people,
right.
employees or officers, no longer than 2 years based on my motion.
Right.
All right, now, the only thing here, I think that's good.
See, we're gonna make it a lump sum of contribution based on the years of service in the past. There'll be X amount of dollars deposited in the account of each individual to start off with. Then we'll have the regular payroll deduction start up, see. I think we might have talked to you about this.
Yes, we talked, we did discuss this.
Yeah.
This amount would probably have to be, equal to 2 years' contributions into it if we started out with a vested right for the present employees and officers. Or would this have?
Not
No,
necessarily,
that
not
wouldn't have
necessarily,
anything to
probably,
do with it.
not necessarily. Now, the only thing, of course, what all we agree on here this morning, let's leave it open to one thing, because we deal with Uncle Sam.
Right.
Whatever Uncle Sam, if Uncle Sam says we can't do this, we can't do it.
Well, I think the committee understands.
Well,
Yeah,
certainly,
all right,
if it's
all
a
right.
violation of some federal
Well, the motion
regulation.
was that, vesting rights began after 2 years service, wasn't it?
That's on new people.
On new people.
Right.
And that the present people,
Have full vested
automatically
rights at
have
the
full
inception of
vested
the
rights.
program.
Right.
Other than that, then we're wasting our time to go back and make a lump sum payment to it. We're kidding ourselves to make a lump sum payment to try to establish something and then say you gotta wait 2 years for vested rights.
Yes, that's true.
It's the complete opposite of each other.
Yeah. Well, do we have any further discussion on that matter? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, do we have any other questions of Mr. Callis? I think you understand what they wanna do.
Yes, I think I do, and like I say, there's a lot of details. I will contact Mr. Schaefer, and,
We'll probably have to have a,
and we will work it out, just, you know,
You found it?
I'll talk with him, I guess, best thing for me to do is, one day next week, early next, first part of the week, I will call you,
I'm sure glad I came and sit in
and,
on this meeting. I wish y'all was on
I'll make an appointment over Internal Revenue. And, if you wanna go, you know, go, all right, if you don't, not necessary.
If it's where I can, I probably would.
Okay, I figured maybe you would. And then we will sit down and talk with them basically, and then
Yeah.
we'll come back and start formulating our
It's not exactly new to me. I happen to be a trustee.
thing, and trying to keep it, you know, within the authority that we have from the council.
Right.
And of course, then we'll come back, ultimately, we'll come back to council, and here we'll, you know, present it to them in final form.
Right.
Which the Internal Revenue will accept,
which they'll approve.
and then, what they'll approve, then we'll come back and the council will.
Yeah, well, this is what we want. We want, in other words, you've been authorized now to proceed, you know pretty well what, they want as far as vested rights are concerned.
Right.
Now, another thing that we've agreed, informally, I think we've agreed informally, that the contribution of employees would be based, strictly on salary and not any overtime involved.
Yeah, we agree.
Applied against the regular,
Yeah, it makes it much
Schedule.
simpler, much
see,
better and much
Since I have to
simpler
do
to
the
operate.
bookkeeping,
she
I
has to
agree
do
to
the
that.
bookkeeping anyhow.
Yeah, because you got on a flat thing, and you got to worry with this overtime and a flat percent on the base pay.
It wouldn't amount to that much, so.
No.
So that's something that you might keep in mind also, that the employee contribution will be based on 2.5% of the regular, monthly salary.
See, I'm glad you mentioned that 2.5%.
Matched by 2.5% of the council.
For a total of 5.
Well, do we have anything else now we need to talk to Mr. Callis about, making any inquiries about?
We might ask, would you, or what you compile will include the, administrative plan for it?
Mr. Schaefer, I'm sorry, I don't quite understand fully, but include, questions, in the plan, you're gonna have to provide how the plan is gonna be administered.
By whom?
Yeah. And, there's a number of items you must, one of my points is, you gotta make provision for death or disability of a participant, and who's to manage them, and how that the trustees will be, removed or replaced, you know, in case you wanna get rid of them, or they wanna get off, something like that. All this has gotta be incorporated in the trust agreement.
Don't mind.
We have, kicked this around a little bit. Would it be necessary, and Robbie might help answer this a little bit, for the 2 girls, which is under contract with office workers, would it it necessary to put any portion of the plan in their agreement, or beneficial to put any portion of the trust agreement in their contract?
Sorry, I'm not,
Well, she's been working on that.
We gonna have something in
I
there.
don't
These
think
girls
that-
are members of Office Workers
Office
Union, and
workers,
he's a
yes.
business agent for it, and his question, would this trust plan need to be incorporated in their agreement as a safeguard or for other reasons?
part of that, what's the,
Put
We
it
have a
this
signed
way, if you
contract.
you have a
got
signed contract?
That's
or-
right.
they wouldn't have it if they didn't have it in their contract.
That's
They couldn't,
Just face it.
they couldn't legally collect it.
I wouldn't think I could go out there and collect nothing from Vickers that I didn't have in my contract.
They
Well,
could
I
based
can
on
assure
voting
you
of the
that
board,
she's
but
been working on it, she's gonna make sure it's in the contract.
They will be
They
named
gonna
in
make-
this trust
Yeah, I know
agreement.
that.
They could collect.
they
It's
could
a little
collect it.
different situation.
Cause
I
you'd have a
like the way
motion in
y'all
the
operate.
minutes
I
that
really
we
do.
approved
She's got
it, so
she's got the language all ready to go, yeah.
Yeah, big-
it'd be
Well,
binding whether or not it's in their
This will
contract.
be, no, this will definitely have to be,
But I wouldn't see why you wouldn't have it in there
voluntary.
either.
Yeah.
If they wanna join, all right, you can't force them to join.
Yeah, sure.
See,
Well, it's optional.
We've got an alternate plan if it's, for someone who doesn't wish to join.
Yeah, it's gotta be,
It's gotta be flexible.
it's gotta be voluntary. If they wanna get in, all right, if they don't, okay.
Sure. Yeah, we've already discussed that as far as the plan, this is concerned, but then actually that is, say, trust, the agreement itself, and, Mr. Cavasari wouldn't necessarily be mentioned in the trust agreement at all. It would be in your labor.
In your labor agreement,
That's
right.
correct. Which would have no reflections for Mr. Capson saying.
No, it wouldn't even matter, where or who handled it, just be a matter of contractual provision.
That's correct.
I'm gonna see if I can join this office work as union myself.
Yeah, got any other openings? I'd like to get in.
Robbie, you didn't hear that, did you?
Huh?
Me and Mr. Cabot said, we're gonna see if we can get in this office work.
Yeah, sir, y'all got any vacancies? We want, next membership
Well,
available, we want to double this cloth.
Yeah.
Well, we are always open for membership in the organization, but we in the business.
You're not turning any members down, are you?
Join that organization, start negotiating with myself. Well, do we have anything else here we need to?
See, we
Make
changed
an
our
inquiry.
name here 3 years ago to Office and Professional.
Right, we
So-
sign up all the first federal employees for it.
Right.
Do we have anything else that we need to discuss with them now?
As soon as he walks out, we probably think.
Probably will, well
Unless we
anyhow,
drop this
we've
stuff.
got the motion, we've got a motion authorizing him to proceed, and Brother Schaefer and he'll get together and get the details and so forth, and I'm sure we'll have to have another meeting, before it's put into effect.
Right, there's a
To
lot of,
review
there's
the
a lot of,
thing with
yeah,
the
there's a lot of,
full committee.
you know,
Yeah.
a lot of these items that you
Right.
wanna settle on.
Right, yes. Well, we appreciate you coming over.
It's real pleasure,
Yeah.
it really has.
And if we, see an opening around here,
Okay.
we'll sign you up.
Okay. Really have enjoyed meeting you.
Yes,
Good
sir.
to see you.
Good to see you.
Thank you,
Okay.
sir.
You see, Paul, the one thing that was obvious, that I'm not sure he made clear, but this $750 back payment would be council funds.
Yes.
And that would be part of the vested interest, and if you agreed to a 5-year deal, then we'd be kidding ourselves. Might not any of the four be around in that 5 years to get none of this we set aside for you. So I
Well,
figured it has to be from the first day or it's no good.
Yeah, well, I was thinking about future.
Yeah, but the way he was working it, he'd be tying up even this back
Well,
payment.
yeah, I can understand, we understand what we're trying to do here. Well, anyhow, I think it's good we got him over here this morning, since he's gonna do the work for us. At least he knows now what we're trying to do.
See, otherwise, you'd be having this whole back fund plus the contribution of 2.5% for 5 years, before it mean anything to you poor people.
No, I think the 5 years, they all would already had in 5 years, do you not?
Yeah, but you hadn't in this plan, see.
That's right, it would add 500.
Our thoughts all along have been that
Yeah,
we're looking
a
ahead,
bit,
the people
right.
we've got, 5 years or more,
Yeah.
would have that.
Yeah, okay, well, let's leave that then and get on another matter. In our negotiations with the office workers union, they made a proposal that, I didn't think we could deal with without committee action. Deals with the hospitalization insurance program. And they requested a change in the plan, the one that included major medical. And, view the fact that this plan also covers the employees and the officers of the council, full-time employees. I felt that this matter should be acted on by the executive committee. This means an increased cost of $9 per person a month, or a total of $36 per month. Now, before you act on that, I want you to get your pencils out, all of you got some paper to write on? Somebody need some paper? You need a piece to write on, right? You got one. I've done some figuring since our last committee meeting to see what the increased cost amounts to compared to the affiliated membership and what have you. And in view of this proposal on the hospitalization insurance, I think you ought to have the whole picture before you make any decision. Now, figuring our affiliated membership at $22,200, 20 cents a member a month, your average monthly income is $4,400 per month. Total subsidy, well, that includes both of the subsidies,
Total of how much?
$4,400 per month. The total monthly subsidy, this is both of them, on a monthly basis is $916.66. That gives you a total of $5,356.66, total monthly income. 5,356.66. We went back and went over the books for the past 2 years as a basis to determine what our expenditures, an approximately monthly expenditure for the past 2 years run right at $5,000 per month.
This is expense over the last 2 years?
Over the last 2 years. Expense for the last 2 years to project this thing, you know, for the next year on a budgetary basis would be right at $5,000 per month. That's without any increased salaries or anything else, see.
This is based on the old figures.
The old figures. Now, total salary increases plus the severance plan, total $345 per month.
$345.
Yes. $345 per month. Now.
And this don't include the major medicals you mentioned earlier.
If you, and I'm gonna give you that figure now.
Okay,
If you
yeah,
put
just
the
trying
new
to see.
medical hospitalization plan into effect, add $36 more there. That gives you a total of $5,381 per month expenditure.
That's right.
Now, take, if you,
Or we take it
then
in.
if you go up and get your $5,356 figure, you'll see that there'll be a deficit of $25 per month based on the current affiliation. Now, or a deficit of $250 per year is what it what that would get done.
Let me ask you a question, Claude. There's 345 when you include salary increase
Yeah.
and, the fund.
Yeah.
Are you including all taxes in connection with that?
No, that's what I was going to tell you. This does not include increased, taxes. I've got a note down here that does not include that. And it also doesn't include we didn't project any increase in mailing cost. As all of you know, mail, it's becoming rather expensive to communicate by mail now.
Getting worse all
And the figure that I give you, $5,000, is probably gonna be low for the next 2 years.
This is something that just came to me. They
Yeah.
said, this is the new cost of the hospital insurance. But
Yeah.
now, when we turn in our new salaries to
Yeah.
this insurance, you know,
Yeah.
we have a 50% life insurance.
Yeah.
This will cause this premium to go up some.
That you had figured?
That we haven't figured it. I just
Don't even know what it'd
I don't
be.
even have it. It's the smallest amount of the amount we
Yeah.
pay each month for little insurance. But this, of course, will amount to probably $5 or $10 more a month, maybe for everybody included with the salary raises. I don't have any idea what
Well,
it'll be.
that's some additional cost.
Yeah, I had forgot about that.
This is on life insurance,
Yeah.
the amount of life coverage increases with the salary.
Right, it's 50% of the
Yeah.
salary, and of course theirs has been raised and ours too, and it amount to a
Oh.
little bit, you know, a year.
Well, I brought these figures out here to you this morning in order that I think you're gonna have to make a decision on 2 or 3 different fashions. Number one, if the hospitalization program is changed, appears to me you're gonna have to think about possibility of not putting the salary increases into effect in the amount that you originally set. I don't know how else you're gonna do it. I hadn't talked this over with Tom here, but I think probably what you need to think about doing is instead of giving us a $1,200 increase, is to give us about a $1,000 increase, Tom, and review this thing at the end of a year to balance it out. What do you think?
Well, simple, I think some adjustments probably have to be made.
Save you with that.
Spending more than taking in, some have to give.
Yeah, we can't.
I find it clear right now.
I know what happens when you do that. I mean.
Well, you can balance it out. You can balance it out, $400, that would be $400, then your books would balance.
Yeah.
Or your
Just
income
about
would
be
balance.
even.
Well, let me ask another question right here, Claude. Now, this $5,000 you're talking about being spent for the past 2 years,
Yeah,
that includes your price of your automobiles too, does it not?
yes.
Well, you don't anticipate another increase,
Well, we don't anticipate, this is where some of the hope is that by not putting, how much longer we got before these automobiles are paid out?
About August.
About August? This means that once they're paid out, we'll have a period there of a little money coming in that's not figured here.
But we get another raise.
Huh?
We get another raise rolled in this year. Ours is not on a set figure.
Yeah.
We've negotiated it.
I believe I'm gonna get something.
It's
Well,
not that much. It's not,
anyhow,
you know, too much
anyhow,
per week, but
I,
it'll be additional figure.
you know, we're not gonna have much cushion. The hope in the thing, of course, is to build up the affiliation.
Yeah.
And we have, as you can see in the quarterly standing, made considerable progress in this area, but we can't set this budget up for this organization up, knowing
Not showing a
if it's deficit
No, I wouldn't want
financing.
to.
No, I wouldn't know.
Huh?
No, I wouldn't approve that. Claude,
I
let me ask you
appreciate your
this,
generosity, gentlemen, but,
Are you sort of doing it in this light, Claude? I hope I grasp what you said. Apparently, the officers and the employees would like to have the additional major medical insurance coverage.
yes.
and you're saying that you don't think you can do that plus the $1,200 raise.
No.
And if you take the major medical for the 2 officers and the 2 employees, then you're
Right.
saying that you would suggest that you reduce your and Tom's raise
Right.
from 1,200 down to 1,000, which means
Right.
you'd pick up $400 that would just about pay for this
Just
other
about
plan.
cover for the plan.
Is that what you're saying?
Cause you can't put major medical in for them without putting it in for
No,
us.
that would, well, y'all on
We
the
got a
same general
uniform
policy,
plan,
aren't
see?
you? Yeah.
I tell you, none of us can afford to be without it now.
No.
I don't think
Well,
so.
that was our thing,
Huh?
making it go, we have
Right.
the increased cost of hospitalization now,
I have
plus
experienced
the, increased, percentage of accidents out on the roads now. Actually, Claude and, Tom is more than.
Yeah,
needs
I
that
think
a heck of a
probably
lot
we need
more
the
than-
major medical more than the secretaries
That's
do.
right.
So we help y'all out every now and then through by negotiation.
That's it.
Well, I don't see nothing else to do but go on back in the day.
It amounts to this, you see what it amounts to is that, instead of, the, $200, swapping $200 for the.
Well, there's no comparison in these 2 plans, the difference in one, we've got Plan C and this Plan A, it's got dental, it's
I
got.
haven't, I've never used this darn thing myself, Tom's used it, how did you come out, Tom, on that operation?
Well, that dental is one of your highest cost items
Man,
there is
man,
in there.
all right.
If you left that dental out, I'm sure you'd see a
Diane
lot of
just
difference
about
in the
really-
premium.
She just went to the limit on hers when she had her operation.
Just ordinary, sickness or something of that nature, well, naturally, the plan would be all right, but then in case you had a major, accident or sickness or something of that nature there, you'd be in trouble.
The big fault with the plan we got, is still a fault with the major medical plan, the so-called major medical surgery. That's where they get you, and there's no, this major medical don't pay a penny more on surgery than the one we've got.
Well, it does
It
too,
does.
Tom, in a manner of speaking, because once you get this,
Not on the operation itself.
not on the operation itself, no, but then that
All the incidentals and things. of
No,
that
no, wait a
kind.
minute, now,
Hospital.
your difference in your, surgery there, and the price of that will go toward, satisfying your original plan before you get into major medical. In other words, you've got a certain amount to spend out of your pocket before you hit major medical, and if you spend that on surgery, then you're gonna hit major medical that much earlier.
What is it, 75, 25, or 80, 20? Co-insured in your major.
No, I, well, I'm,
20.
I don't know, I might not, I don't think Robbie understood what I said.
Yes, I
8%
think I do, Thomas, because I happen to be a trustee on such a plan at this time. And I've been in negotiation on this type of insurance for the last 10 years. Now, I think I understand it pretty well.
They all have fallacies. The real advantage of major medical is to take care of your
It's
capital
80%.
expense.
80,
When
20.
Ronnie,
This
my
cost, I'm
youngest-
telling you something terrific.
youngest son, and his expense was nothing to compare with the same thing repeated today.
Yeah.
We had at that time $10,000 maximum. Well, it never occurred to me that $10,000 could be used up so quick. When the last bill was paid on him, of course, it hadn't been paid even yet, but I had $190 left out of $10,000.
Well, that's the type of thing we talk about.
Right, but what I'm talking about too, and Thomas,
That's one.
see my
You
stand,
don't hit many
see on your
We have
first
three.
plan,
Three.
that plan is gonna have to, you're gonna have to put out a certain amount out of your pocket before major medical will take over. See, well, just for a round figure, of course, I don't know what figure you understood the plan, but then say you're gonna have to put out $100 out of your pocket before major medical takes over. Well, then if you spend that on surgery, well, that applies against your $100 right on. So your major medical will be taking effect much earlier, and when you put out that certain amount of
It'd be
money.
because of the surgery, even though it won't pay any more actually for a specific operation.
That's correct.
Right, I understand what you're
Is
saying.
this the deductible policy you got?
Deductible.
$50, is that $50?
No.
Less than 50.
Well, let's see if we can get
No,
some
that's
action
Deductible
here.
amount, $50.
Deductible amount. That's in major medical clause, so.
Well, actually,
If
as I
you put
see it,
this
we've
in
got
a-
a request from the office workers, local,
Yeah.
to cover the office girls with major medical, and we either have to say yes or no to them, and this is a question you really brought this up for, right?
Right.
And if we say yes to them, then it's a group policy that also has to include the officers.
That's right.
On this basis, then, I'd make a motion, we go along with your suggestion. I don't see nothing else we can do.
That we, instead of a $1,200 increase to Tom and myself, it'd be pegged at $1,000.
And then cover all four on the major
Cover
medical,
all four on major medical.
if that's the suggestion, I don't see.
I don't see how you can do anything else if you put it into effect. Do you,
Well,
You?
let's.
Tom, are you agreeable to this?
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, let's,
It's not there, I mean, there's nothing to argue
I mean, the
about.
money-
Money's not there.
Well, I would,
Well, we've got a
submit-
choice as to how we spend what we got, that's actually what we're
Yeah.
talking about.
Well, might I make a suggestion in relation to James's motion there, if he will agree to it, is, let this, stand, at least for a year, and then take another look
Take
at
a
it
look
at the
at
end
the
of the
salaries
year.
at the end of the year.
Sure, I'll agree to that.
All right.
Sure.
Well, you can put that in your motion.
For 1 year,
Hmm?
for 1 year.
Yeah, right. Okay, we have any further discussion on the motion?
Did I get a second?
Well,
I
yeah,
would
you
second.
you second. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed, motion carried and so ordered. Now, a couple of other things here that,
Well, before we leave this point, and I don't wanna be, contrary about it, but it's dawned on me, you know, sometimes, I try to do a good job, whatever committee I serve on, or whatever office I hold. But you know, a lot of times, this committee's sort of working in the dark. Before, we didn't have any idea this would overextend the money, for example. I didn't,
Yeah.
personally, I thought we could do what we was passing.
We looked at one figure.
Right. So I'm wondering if it wouldn't be possible for, us to get some sort of regular financial report, so we know how much money is there, and so we know where we're winning or losing, and if we make a money decision, what we're making it on, rather than just sort of fishing over here in the dark.
well, we get a quarterly standard of affiliates out every 3 months. We could prepare you a financial statement along with that.
Then at least we
And send
know,
it out to you
we either
then.
had it or we
This,
didn't,
a
you know.
quarterly statement, would this suffice, you think?
This would help,
I think so.
Well.
cause when the board makes a decision, we really need to know how much money we got before we make a decision on how much we're
Yeah.
spending.
Well, we can prepare that along with the quarterly standard, send out to the whole
Don't you
board.
agree?
James,
Yeah.
to the whole board?
Whereas to the
Certainly
whole
for the whole
board,
board.
certainly to the executive committee, and I got no objections for the whole board.
Well,
right?
it would be just as
Right.
easy to send to the
Right.
whole board as it would.
Because the whole board, when in the general
Yeah.
session has to make money decisions, and they'd be just as entitled to information, in my
Well, you
opinion.
offer a motion that we
Sure
prepare
do, yeah.
financials for a quarterly statement,
Right.
send out to the board.
I'll second it.
Any discussion on that motion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered.
One comment in regards to transportation,
Yes.
I think we should always figure a monthly
Yeah.
amount set aside for
Well,
transportation.
Just about
and
half.
always budget our.
Well, that's what we
Fair
do.
on that.
That's been past practice and we've been able to accumulate a little bit when we wasn't having to put it out. But then you've always got repairs, tires and stuff like this in the picture, you see. So the best thing to do, I think, what we allow.
205.
205, for auto, tags, tires and everything.
No, that's just note.
Auto note was 65 for tag, that'd be $270 for,
Everything.
yeah, okay.
As far as the note on the car, I
Yeah.
don't think we should ever do this, I just figured that. it
Well,
was
that's,
cost-
what I usually do is to work up a budget like this at the beginning of each year, in order that we can have some idea about where we're headed, you see, and what the cost is gonna be. Now, there's a couple other things here that has never, policy has never been set by the organization, and this, I guess, is my fault, that, I've never asked the committee to take a position on it. It's not too much of a problem, and that's vacation and sick leave. We you never have spelled out how much vacation or sick leave the council officers are concerned. We do take care of that for the office workers and employees in their contract.
Well, I probably should know what they do, but I don't. What is their
Tell them
plan?
what's, under the,
Sick
What
leave's
is-
12 days a year,
What's your vacation?
2 weeks after 5 and a graduation of up to, 3 weeks after 10 years. 1 day, additional day for
Yeah,
6,
yeah, 5.
2 for 7, 3 weeks after 10 years.
Where it's been, it's 2 weeks up to 5 years.
Yeah.
That's graduation scale, above 5.
In other words, if you've been there 1 year, you still get the 2 weeks.
Correct.
And you got 12 days a year sick leave.
Cumulative.
accumulated.
And of course, we've got other, that's only as paid, that's on pay, of course, we can be off
You
a
could
year,
be
we've
off
got
longer.
maternity leave
Right.
or, other kind of leave.
But you got 12 days a year you get paid for.
Paid, that's right.
Accumulated, they carry it over from year to year if they don't use it.
If you don't use it, you can save it up. So if you had 3 years, you didn't miss but 1 day, then,
You'd have 35
in
days.
the 4th year, you'd
Nobody
have
can't save
35
it.
days, then you'd have
Right.
major surgery or something, you'd probably
Yeah.
have enough to get paid for the whole period. Is that is
That's
that
right.
the way it works?
That's right.
You want to, apply that to
This
the
much he knows.
council officers?
I'm just wondering what they had. I don't know what we should
Say
do
this much,
really.
you done a good job of negotiating when you got it accumulated.
Sounds like it.
Yeah,
I
we
had
didn't
been able
ever
to do that.
accumulate
Yeah, we
much.
didn't have a
Well-
policy in this field.
Huh?
I didn't realize we didn't have any policy in this field.
I didn't either.
No,
Let me
no, it
ask you
hasn't.
this, Claude,
Yeah.
would you two be satisfied with the same as they have?
Well, I think so. I mean, I don't, frankly, the vacation thing, I can't never get time to take off the amount of time obligated under there.
Well, I offer a motion
and
that
Tom
they have
can't
the same thing as the office workers.
Huh?
I'll make a motion that you have the same as the office.
Set out the same of vacation and sick
Yes.
leave arrangement as the employees, okay. At
I
least
second.
At least we got something, yeah, okay. Any discussion on that?
Are you sure you're not already a member of this union?
I wish you knew. I think we ought to start collecting you.
All right, any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. All opposed? Would y'all like me to order up some coffee?
I wouldn't.
Careful
No
what
way.
you say.
Don't go by me.
I could drink it, but don't
Well,
order just for me.
How many of you want coffee?
I
Oh,
do.
You do? Robbie?
Oh, this stinking coffee.
Wait a minute, though, it's darn cold.
That's right. You better have a Coke.
I'd rather have a Coke.
That's right, I forgot about that.
Coke?
I can't
We
take
gotta move out of this hotel.
How many, the coffee's no good, you say?
Not to
No,
me.
it's pitiful.
Well, how many wants coffee? Now, hold up your hand.
We could've went to the down.
Well, how many wants Coke? Hold up your hand. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I don't want anything.
You don't want a Coke?
No,
You want to? Huh?
How many wants Coke?
Well, just get Cokes then. I'll drink a Coke then, and leave ordering 1 cup of coffee. You want
you want
coffee?
coffee, do you?
How many
Huh?
do we have? Who else wants coffee? He doesn't.
Everybody except James wants a Coke, I think. That'd be what,
Carol wants coffee.
I
didn't
Coke.
do anything.
You don't want a Coke? Well, we
Is
ain't
that
gonna-
hard to get to do anything? Make them drink that ice water.
All right, y'all settle for the water then. Go ahead.
I'm drinking the water.
Let's see.
I don't know, wait about that.
That's what I mean, I don't know. Did we vote on that motion?
Yeah.
Yep.
Y'all
I'm behind.
negotiating over there. Everybody take one of these and pass it around.
Talking about, you asked me if you wasn't a member of the union already, I could see the, English Shipbuilding Corporation patted their whole damn organization after our contract, after we negotiated one. It's a damn system. They set the whole darn plant up on it, damn whole management organization.
Did a pretty good job, right? Most people recognize a good thing when they see it.
I'm gonna give you all a chance to look that brochure over for a few minutes. Talk about it a little bit. yours, that's what they said. You just have to work up a buck. Along the lines you do for you and Diane, and keep a check on it.
This will be for all future results.
Yeah. Better. That's a good question. I'll raise that question. Shouldn't we go back and check it back, I guess? See. Secretary raises a good question here, I guess, on the sick leave thing about, does it start now, or should you go back and figure from the beginning?
My impression is it'd start now. And you just count any future time, you know, I don't see how you can go back.
We'll say they got sick this year, they just get paid for certain, they just gonna draw pay for certain.
Well, we didn't
days,
have no
minimum.
plan, so whatever plan you'd had in effect all these years would be in effect until the effective date of this motion, like as of today. Then you count from here
And
forward.
then your contract reads 12 days per year.
Yeah.
Okay, so you're still in the year 68, so they could use the 12 days between now and 69.
12 days to 68.
Right, so you still got 12 days to
You
68.
may not have used any of yours, but you still would be allowed to use 12 days between now and 69. So
Well,
they would have the same privilege.
This would be easier for her to do it this way.
See how else you could do it.
We just started for this year. Let me read you a letter I got in connection with that brochure. It says, "Dear Mr. Rams, I'm sending you on a separate cover copies of the First Mississippi Economic Education Foundation brochure and copies of the National Foundation brochure. I would appreciate it very much if you'd use them in getting some of your labor leaders interested in attending the program. I especially hope that you will be able to attend at least a part of the meetings. In circularizing these brochures, I'd like for you to specifically point out that room and board is available without cost to the labor representatives, and that I should be notified in advance by those who will be attending. I need their names and the dates of attendance so that we can include them in the list of names required by the cafeteria for each meal. I certainly would appreciate your wholehearted cooperation in making this First Mississippi Clergy Conference a complete success." Now, I've kept the board advised and posted on the fact that we have two different groups working on economic education. One is the Joint Council on Economic Education. Pat, take one and pass this around. And the other one is the Clergy Economic Foundation. Both of these organizations work together. The main objective of both is to better inform people of this country concerning our economic system. This is a group of ministers. I've had the pleasure of meeting with them on several occasions along with the other group. And it's the most important group in this state, or any other place for that matter. And I assured those gentlemen that I would bring this to your attention and see if we could find someone that would be interested in participating. As I pointed out in the letter, there is no cost. The room and board will be paid. Might want to look that program over. It looks like it's going to be a rather interesting program.
How broad a coverage is this thing gonna have, Claude? I've tried to determined here? I mean, how many people, how many clergymen, for example, and from what areas of the country or state will they be from?
Well, this of course is a statewide thing, and they'll be bringing in, inviting, ministers from around about the state. And as you can see, they're gonna have, various segments of the economy represented there: agriculture, labor, business, what have you.
What does it mean here where it says deadline for acceptance is, number of scholarships is limited to 55? Does that mean the total group? It's on the back, under conference facts.
Preachers, doesn't it?
I don't know, it don't say.
Where is this at?
It's on the back where it says conference facts, turn it over. And look at about, the third one from the bottom says deadline for acceptance. The number of scholarships is limited to 55.
Right above
Is that
it
referring to the clergyman or a total or what?
says the scholarship will be awarded a limited number of clergymen. Is that what that means?
Yes. Limited pleasure. Let's say, have to limit the thing, you know. It's gonna be more or less a select group to what it really gets down to. What they're doing is trying to recruit from the various faiths, you see, so many from each faith.
Yeah. Of course, I guess.
That would probably be, for room accommodation.
Yes, that's the reason for it. The limit is for its accommodation.
If I want to take my pastor up there for a session,
Yeah.
You probably
I
get
doubt
in.
there'd be any restrictions.
Yeah.
No,
At
that's
all.
right. Sure, they'd be glad to have you come up like that. Well, I don't need any action on this thing. I just would like for you to give this matter some thought, and if it's where any of you could go up and participate, I'd like to urge you to do so, and then you might have some member of your organization would like to go. I'm sure you would have.
If you say up, it's down, it's just gonna be a southern.
Well,
According to this, it says
you know.
Mississippi Southern.
This is Episcopal Conference.
Oh, it's gonna be in Canton? Oh.
Canton, Episcopal Conference Center in Canton.
Oh, Canton. Well, I was just looking at the face of it.
Yeah. When and where Episcopalian Conference
Right,
Center, Canton,
right.
Mississippi.
Yeah.
Right, I understand.
It's
big
on your
Canton.
back, constant fact sheet.
Yeah, I see it now.
Yeah. Any of you like to have another brochure or two? I got a few left here. I thought that if, where I could, and I'll talk to Tom about this, maybe here, you know, both of us can at least go up and spend some time with him, making pens, maybe. Jackie might be where you can get up, man.
Yeah, I was.
Some of you here in the Jackson area.
Half a day or
Would be
something.
too hard to run up there.
Time is May.
Now,
Next to the last week of May, now.
Reverend Canterbury still lived here.
take one of these,
That was something.
pass them around.
He looked like he was in good shape, too.
Sure did.
Blood,
Take one of these,
Oh.
passing you around now a copy of the manufacturer's
You get one
newsletter.
of these right in the short one of them. You got some more of this House Bill 600?
This House bill.
Yeah. There's not enough going around, they stop it here.
Oh, I didn't bring enough. We got
No.
one more than
Well,
that.
I know what the 600 is.
Well, and here's another one though, that you.
Well, no, that's manufacturers and MEC. One of them is two different things, but it amounts the same
Well,
thing.
then how
Bobby
you
will,
gonna have
I'll make sure I get a copy for you to carry back with you before you.
Well, Jack don't have one either on the Mississippi
Okay.
Legend.
All right. But anyhow, that's a copy of the manufacturer's newsletter sent out March 29th. And if you'll notice down there, about midway is the first column. They start off about House Bill 600, the Department of Industrialization bill, and then over at the end of that thing, it says, "You are urged to let these committee members and your representatives know about your opposition to such a new agency."
I just
Then,
have one of them.
then the MEC, The MEC, this is the MEC publication. I only thumb a fax the back of it. You got the back of the MEC publication of, what's the date of it?
March 25.
The MEC is what I'm trying to find, the date of that thing. April. No, it's about the same date, I guess. I don't believe I got the cotton picking thing.
Don't seem to be dated.
Well, anyhow, they're dealing with the same thing. I got this from Carl Wiesenberg. This is what Robert brought over to me. He sent me a copy of the same thing. I want to make sure I got it, I guess. He's on their mailing list. Now, this is what they're doing. If you look at both publications, they are mounting a concerted campaign of opposition to this bill. And the result of it, there's been quite a few letters written to especially the sponsors of the bill, and to the members of the Labor Committee. And we're suggesting that it's time that we started a letter writing campaign of our own. I have sent copies of this bill 600 to each central labor union. They all have it in their possession. Any of you'd like to read it, check with the president of the central body, and those in the Jackson area, I'd be glad to provide you with a copy of the fax one that I have in the office if you'd like to have a copy of the bill.
Which bill was that?
That's House Bill 600. That's the one that sets up the Department of Labor, Department of Industrializations. Now, they've done a pretty good job of analyzing the bill. The manufacturer's bulletin had. You might want to spend a few minutes looking that over. Same thing with the MEC. The MEC pretty well spells it out, what the bill does. See, they list the authors of the bill along with the House Labor Committee. Of course, now we've sent all this information out to all of our affiliated local unions in the newsletter. When the bill was introduced and referred to the Labor Committee, then we called all of these things to their attention in the weekly newsletter. Several of the House members have showed me letters that they've got in opposition to this, and they would appreciate very much if you would start getting some people to write in support of the bill, especially the sponsors and also to the various members of the Labor Committee. We've talked with Sutton Marks, the chairman of the committee, and he's assured us of an opportunity to appear before the committee when they take the bill up. I can also report to you this morning that you haven't, I don't guess, got the weekly newsletter yet, have you? Any of you got it yet? Probably haven't got it yet, but the Senate Labor Committee has reported out the unemployment insurance bill that was introduced at the request of the Employment Security Committee, Commission. This is a bill that we worked on around here all summer, trying to get some agreement on. It would increase the weekly benefits up to $40. Stay at $40 this year and next year. And in 1970, the maximum would be dropped from the bill, and then the formula based on 50% of the average weekly wage would be put into effect, which means that according to the person's weekly earnings, the thing would escalate or move forward or downward, however it is applied. Now, the doggone committee, and I'm sure that the manufacturers behind this, they oppose it, of course. They take a position that it ought not be increased above $36. They also oppose to the escalation feature in the bill, of the formula, where to remove the maximum. It depends on the person's earnings or what he draws. So the committee has amended the bill. they report it out with a $40 maximum amount, period. Remove the formula from the bill, which means that, we'll have to go back anytime we wanna make any improvements, it'll take other actions of the legislature. Frankly, what we've been trying to do here is to get the thing set up where we don't have to keep going before the legislature to make improvements. We get the formula in there, then it automatically takes care of itself.
Yeah.
But, anyhow, that will be on the calendar next week, and we'll have to make a concerted effort again to amend the bill on the floor to get the formula back in it. It wouldn't hurt a thing in the world for you to talk to your senators over the weekend and urge them to support an amendment to amend the bill to get that formula back in there. This has been a compromise on our part to begin with. The present bill calls for 55%, you see. But in order to make this kind of progress, we conceded, okay, we'll go along with this. The MEC's agreed with it, but the doggone manufacturers are out fighting. But $40 will be a pretty good improvement. You know what I'm talking about. At the
Yeah,
present
$10
time,
a
it's
week.
$30. So there's, I mean, even with the way it is now, it'll be considerable improvement. But we're gonna make the fight to get the formula back in the bill. And if you fellows will contact your senators and then ask your members also to do some legwork on this thing, it'll be appreciated. We've had a
Do
couple.
you know what the number of that bill is offhand?
If I brought that information over here with me. I don't believe I've got that.
It'll be in this week's report, you'll get.
It's in this, well, see, I think I got a copy of that in my pocket. Yeah, it is 1817. The Senate Labor Committee has given SB 1817 a favorable report. And I'll go and explain what they've done. 1817, that's the unemployment insurance, that's Senate Bill 1817. We've got us a real Donnybrook going over there right now. I'm sure you'd be interested in it. The Senate Finance Committee is sitting on all revenue bills right now. They took up the House-passed teachers' pay bill this past week, which was virtually the same as the one adopted by the Senate, but they haven't reported out any revenue measures yet. There don't seem to be a whole lot of opposition to the sales tax increase, but there is considerable opposition to the income tax bill in the Senate. And I'm not too sure what that opposition's about. I'm not too sure that the opposition's not coming from the manufacturers about the increased top. I'm not real sure that a lot of this opposition centers around the fact that they went out and got a lot of low and middle income people, see. And of course, this is the thing that we're fighting, is trying to keep the increased taxes off our membership any more than possible. And we're making the fight on property reevaluation on a statewide basis. I'm a little bit optimistic about the possibility of something coming out of this legislature on this too, by the way. We had a hearing this past week, a House subcommittee, the Ways and Means Committee, had a public hearing over here last, when was it, Calvin? Tuesday, Wednesday. And we had a real conglomeration over there testifying for the bill. The MEC, the state AFL-CIO, and the State Board of Supervisors organization, along with one or two people associated with the tax assessors organization. And I'm a little bit optimistic that something's gonna come out of this. This is a real complicated thing, you know. It doesn't, it won't raise a lot of money immediately. Matter of fact, it'll raise very little money at the state level, but it will place these counties in a position of having a stronger tax base, on a more equitable basis, and put them in a position to raise, money for the schools locally. I know all of you are familiar with how this is done, but the state legislature allows the counties, 25 mills, up to 25 mills for, school purposes. The boards of supervisors and the county school boards can levy up to 25 mills as a property tax for school purposes. See, this is the importance of this thing. I pointed out to them over here the other day, this state has about reached the saturation point on taxes, the state level. When this legislature leaves town, they will have just about exhausted all sources of revenue from this point on in. Now, this is where the importance of the reevaluation thing gets into the picture, is that the next money for schools is gonna have to come at the local level. You see?
Oh, this is a little bit off what you're discussing, but since it comes to mind and it is interrelated, what's gonna happen to this bill if somebody's putting a hopper over there to allow the counties to make up this difference where they've lost a federal school support?
Well, I don't know, what's gonna happen, but this is gonna double up on somebody else again, you see.
Well, even though such a bill as that is passed, how much it won't that, be drugged through the courts and finally, declared unconstitutional?
Probably will, but I'm just wondering, what was any hope of it passing?
Boy, I don't know. We got a package this week, gentlemen, it was really loaded for us.
Cook, Cook,
What?
Cook's bills,
Let's see,
Something
about
like county board.
the series of bills introduced, to prevent riots or to, strengthen the governor's hand on preventing riots. Got that in the report this week, but there's one of them it's a real stingeree, and, I'm convinced that they got us in mind all the way with this type legislation. They dropped them in the hopper over there. We're gonna railroad them right through, bang, bang, bang. E.K. Collins got in touch with me, as soon as they dropped them in, and of course I got on top of the situation. Finally got copies the next morning, got some of our friends over there to work on it. We wound up getting them put in a subcommittee, the Judiciary Committee, and they're sitting on them right now. Just how long we hold them there, I don't know. But, this is another one of these deals that is gonna give us a works real fast like.
What's that on that anti-riot
Yeah,
thing?
and there's one of them there that I pointed out. Now, that's in the report this week, you'll be getting at the numbers of all of the bills. But, man, there's one of them there, if the thing passes, that the governor of Mississippi would have just about unlimited authority. He could call a state of emergency at any time he saw fit, and just take
Whether
over.
there's any problems or not.
Yeah. I mean, this is a tight thing that you have to watch, you see, in this thing. They're really working on us over there, trying to. We've been fortunate so far, that we've been able to kill most of this kind of stuff. We had, well, I point this out in the report here again this week also, this doggone Pittman from your town down there, Jane.
I don't live in Heidelberg. I live west of it.
He had a bill up over there last week, an election bill. That son of a gun offers an amendment.
That's Tom's town.
He offered a doggone amendment that would make it unlawful for anybody to carry a sample ballot into the polling place with him.
I knew he wasn't for people. I told some folks that, but they thought he was, so now they see I knew, so. He didn't even bother to show up at our banquet up here, and he didn't show up at the meeting even before he was elected when he wanted labor support. He didn't even show up to the meeting to discuss it.
Well, you'll be interested to vote on that amendment. 38 to 12, it was defeated, so that's.
Got very many friends, hasn't he?
Well, that's pretty good vote, and these fellas knew what I mean, this thing was aimed directly at us.
Well,
You know, we prepare sample ballots and send out to people, you know. That's who they shooting at, yeah. So, I mean, that vote 38-12 is an indication we've got a pretty good Senate over there, wouldn't you think?
I would think so.
Mm. So, I mean, I'm more encouraged.
Keep a lot of old people in the state from voting.
Yeah.
A lot of others.
Well, anyhow, I wanna urge you, to talk with as many people as you can about some letters, on these bills, that we've been discussing, and I'll get, all of you copies. If you fellows would like to come by and get a copy of the bill, I've got one in the office, I'll permafax it for you. Talk to as many of your members as you can, and, just address the letters to the people over at the state capitol. We gotta get some support in there from some of our people. There is a good possibility that we can get this bill passed this time. We can get it out and get a favorable report out of committee and get it on the floor. I believe there's a good possibility of passing. The problem is gonna be getting it out of
Would it,
committee.
it might be too much trouble, but would it be too much trouble to ask you people to sort of give us a letter to go by to get these people to write in or something that you think would affect, have more effect?
Bill Stanley wrote a real good letter yesterday to Sutton Marks, and, I asked him to send me a copy of it. He's going to mimeograph it, and I thought I would, reproduce it and mail it out to the affiliated local unions. This would do, I think, what you're looking for.
As long as they don't use it word for word, if they do,
Word for
it'll
word.
sort of be
Yeah.
ineffective, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well,
They use it as a guide and put it into their own words, but
we adopted a resolution at the convention, if you remember, on
Kenny's
this,
letter,
national
no
safety
legislative body.
legislation, and pointed out in that resolution that we're the only state in the union that does not have a Department of Labor, that we spend over $4 million every 2 years on fish and game, but spend only about $30,000 on factory inspection. This is the type of thing that you use in a letter as a comparison. We have 2 full-time safety inspectors to cover the whole state out of the state health department. See, this is the kind of thing that you can use in your communication. Okay, we got a couple of other things here that, we need to take up before the committee. We've got a problem over here in the office that, you might say it's not just in the office, it's this, card file program, or WAD program, whatever you wanna call it, that we have attempted to set up, in all the central body areas. And, there's just not much being done, frankly. And I might explain to you what our problem is in the office is that we got one girl that spends most of her time on punching plates, keeping the addresses up to date. And when she makes those plates, she also then runs, cards through the machine, puts the names and addresses of the new members on those cards, and these cards then are sent back to the central body to be filed in their card files, you see. And it's just, the central bodies are not doing much with the card files now, which means that we've got a lot of work going on over here, keeping these cards going, that, we're not getting much out of, is what I'm getting at now. Because of the convention and the workload in the office, a couple of 3 weeks before the convention, we decided we'd just stop this part of it to get the convention out of the way. But we're gonna have to, we just got to know something, we gotta do something about this whole operation. Right, Tom?
Yeah.
Now, we've talked about, maybe we ought to consider the possibility of, of course, I know we can't do it now, maybe if we ever make this thing successful, of hiring another girl in the office, setting the thing up in the state office. Down the whole way.
Well, in a situation like it is, you sure couldn't hire one now. if you
Yeah, well,
already-
that's what I say, that's out, that's out of question right now.
What do you think, the major problem is?
What is the major problem, Tom?
Well, you can't, about time you get somebody to serve as chairman. You have to have somebody at central body level serve as chairman. somebody to say, come on and let's go. And by the time you get, one place set up, you get what you need to work with, well, bang, the chairman for any one of hundreds of reasons resigns, quits. The central body president in most cases, has other responsibilities. They can't vote, they're responsible under the court, policy and procedure, they're responsible at the local level for appointing the ward chair. That's at the discretion of the chairman of the central body. Well, by the time they have the time to screen the people or talk to a number of women or girls, wives or members, and see if anybody will accept the job while the thing has got behind. You see what I mean? Sometimes it's a month, 2 months, 3 months before you get anybody else to take the job. Consequently, it's all gotten behind then. Yeah. It's just almost impossible. Of course, in some of these areas, it's impossible to get the voter list. You just can't get it. That's all there is to it. In most cases, you have to hire somebody to go to the clerk's office and sit down and make the list. You see, back when we had the poll tax thing, we, in a lot of areas, we could get the poll tax records from the sheriff where you couldn't get anything out of the circuit clerk. Yeah. Well, the poll tax record is not accurate. It's all 80%. That's about the only thing we could get to work with. Now you don't have the poll tax anymore. It's strictly dependent on the registration list from the circuit clerk's office. And we've got 3 central bodies in the whole state that can actually acquire a real voters list. In Heidelberg, they've got one. They've got one in Greenville, and they've got one up in Carter. And this is the only place where, and they've got one in Meridian, where actually they have connections with the clerk's office, or have connection with somebody that does have connection, where you can get them. You see, this is by law public record, but now you get them. That's where you get your own list. That's something else. And of course, this really is not the fault of the program at the local level in some places, but it's just hard to keep the thing going, because like I say, when you get one area going while you're working on another area, when you get back there, that one's going to flunk. Well, and the women folks don't get the encouragement from the men in a lot of instances, and they will not work unless they have the men behind them 100%. This program was really set up for the wives, in the sense that, and of course we don't have too much of that anymore, strictly housewives that don't work somewhere. See, this is what the program was set up for, was wives of the labor movement. As you know, we got more women in the labor movement than we've ever had before. And in most places we have to depend on the women union members. And of course they work on a job 8 hours a day, and some of them 10 and 12. They got children, they got families to tend to. It's a real problem. It is a real problem to keep it going.
Let me ask you this, as I understand it, the cards you supply them from the state council office just shows their name and address. What does it show? In the code.
Yeah, we got, see.
Then they're supposed to put, they're really supposed to put that in a file to have available. Then they're supposed to then have their other card file that they check these against, huh?
We run all the cards.
We got 2, yeah.
Do you run them all through?
What's the name and address on them?
Outset we did, see,
Yeah.
but we prepared a new type card. And to make less work on the girls at the local
Yeah.
level.
They don't have to
all
transfer it.
Both
I understand.
cards, you use a white card, you use a green card.
Yeah.
The white card is the local union file.
Yeah.
Alphabetically by local as such. The green card is your political file. This is filed by precinct, by supervisor district, by county, irrespective of the local union.
Right,
See?
I understand.
This is the one you check against the voter list, the green card.
But we've done everything we can up here to improve it, James.
Right, I see
Originally, they had to write all this stuff
Yeah,
on the
transfer
card.
it from one to
Well,
another.
to make it easier on them, instead of running one card, we fixed up the other card where we could run
Both
it through
cards.
the addressograph, and all they've got to do now is to check it out against the qualified voter list.
And put it in the proper
Put the
file.
pertinent information on it and file it, you see.
So actually, Tom, what you're saying, you got two problems. Apparently in some places, they're not even filing these cards, they're just accumulating on somebody's desk.
Right.
And the other problem is where they are filing, they just sticking them in a file, they don't either have a voters list or they're not checking them against it. Is this what you're saying?
Right. We've got 2 or 3, 4 places where they've been working on the thing, where they can get the list, see? But it's really, it's a very difficult job to get these lists, because they do not make them, except in election years. For instance, last year, this is where we were instrumental enough to get what we've got, was last year. They was making them anyhow, see, and we managed to buy them. There's very few central bodies that's got $35 or $40 to buy a list with. Now, up in Greenville, they hired the typist up there and furnished her a typewriter. She went to the clerk's office, and of course, in many places, they will allow you they'll give you a table. If you've got somebody that can do the work, come in, they'll give you the books there.
But
as
you
far
have
as
to do your own
making the list every year, they don't. Now, once you get a list, all you have to do after that is to get a supplement each year.
As to who's registered
As
since
to
the
who's
last list.
registered up through a certain date. Now, the deal was down at Heidelberg, when we bought that one, was that they would, the person that made this would give
give
a
you a
supplement.
supplement.
Well, he's already got one supplement as a result of this deal,
Yeah.
see?
Yeah.
Now, that person's gone, not even there anymore. So you this upsets the whole thing.
But to this respect, then that's easier than it was, cause in the days of poll tax, you had to do these cards every year, cause they either paid or they didn't, and they couldn't vote.
You had to go through the whole thing every year.
So now with the registration, if you get the supplements, this is easier than in the past.
Yeah, well, this part of it is true. I mean, it's more accurate than it ever was, when you can get them, see?
Yeah.
But this is a big problem. Then plus the fact that once you get that, you got the problem of keeping a chairman and a crew to do the work. You get one area set up, and while you're working on another area, you go back and bang, that one's gone.
Well, then this means really then that if we got into a political campaign in some particular district, or even statewide for that matter, then we wouldn't necessarily have a qualified voters list that the council could mail out literature to actual voters as such.
No, not as such. No.
Not as such.
No.
All we can do is mail it to everybody on our list. And it means that we don't have the card file.
Money going down the
That's
drain,
what I
all
say,
them
if you
cards.
can't vote, it don't matter, no.
Yeah, and of course, we've spent a lot of money on these cards and stuff.
Well, I'm sure.
Of course,
A
it's
lot of
all
lost
dead.
labor with the
We
girl
stopped
working
it,
on it.
We stopped this a while back, though, stopped
Yeah.
making the cards.
The thing you see, the thing that concerns me about it is that if we're gonna have a successful political program, down at the local level, that these card files are important, because you remember when we were in a congressional race in the 5th district a couple of years ago,
Right.
we set up telephone banks
That's
in
right.
most of these areas, and these card files are important, that you be able to, you got the telephone numbers too, you see, and
Yeah.
in other words, you put your telephone program going on.
Right.
I mean, this is the idea behind the whole thing, you see. Now, in many areas of the state, it's just non-existent in the town.
Right.
Now, back to the voter list, we spent quite a bit of money ourselves a few years ago on trying to get those lists for the central bodies, especially a place like Harrison County, when the legislature was reapportioned, and some key places like this. It was important enough to us, to get those lists. And we hired some people to go in there and do it ourselves, because they didn't have the money, you see.
Yeah. Well, actually, then you bring this up in the light that at this point the card file has just stopped.
In most places, I wouldn't say all together. You got how many, 2, 3,
Well,
maybe?
2, 3, 4 places.
Places that they're
They're
keeping
doing
them up
some
pretty
work,
good.
like I say, they've been fortunate enough to have somebody that, to stay on the job, and then they've been lucky to get these lists, see.
Yeah, of course, then you said
Right.
just before the convention, you even stopped to work on it in the office, which means
Yeah.
even the places it was doing is not getting any information right now.
Well, of course,
Right.
what I think probably what we'll have to do, Tom, is to those that are still active continue to run the cards for them.
Yeah, that was why.
But we had to stop this to get ready for convention.
Yeah.
It's a serious problem. There's, the Jackson area, for instance, there's nothing
That
being
can
done
be
right here.
continued, see, it was just stopped, those where they are doing the work, you
Yeah.
can continue to furnish them with it.
It's something I don't think we come up with the answer to today, Claude, in my opinion.
Well,
I think it's too broad a problem to just, say we'll do this or that. I got a suggestion, why don't we set up a committee to study this matter and report back at some future board meeting after we can check, see how many actually is active and what is happening, and what the problem really is.
that'd be a good idea.
I don't see how we could decide it today, not knowing,
But
really where we stand. you
something
know.
though that I thought I ought to call to your attention here
Yeah.
and try to do something about, because, there's no point in us, spending a lot of money on cards and paying a girl to do something that's not being, done. You follow me?
Well, and if we don't do it, then we're kidding ourselves. Then we're never gonna bring around much progress if we don't even have available, the information on our own members to know who votes and who don't, and where they live.
That's what I'm getting at.
Whole problem is the age-old problem. What have we got to motivate activity to the CIO?
That's the problem.
Well, I talked with
Why
these-
can't we educate the people at the CIO level?
I wondered if it was just Mississippi, I talked to these guys.
Well, maybe this
from
could be a
states
part of any
around us,
committee's
and they-
recommendations as
they
to
got
what
the
could be
same
done.
problem.
Well, I
It's
got
better than
another,
smoke, yeah.
I got another item on the agenda, and we might as well take that up, along with this, and that's a program for this fall. We've attempted when we can, to set up a series of workshops and what have you in the central body areas to try to rejuvenate them and keep them moving. Your committee, your suggestion, did you put that in the motion?
I just made a suggestion, but I'll be happy to make a motion
All
that,
right, motion that we
committee
set up
be
a committee
appointed
to
to
study this matter, and
study this
studying the
matter.
matter, you could also study the possibility of a program, maybe that we ought to initiate from this end to help do what you're talking
that
about.
would
today.
hinge on getting them started at the local
In
level.
other words, you'd study the whole thing, not just the card file, but the program at the central body level, and what, our program, what we need to be doing from this end. Will
Well-
you second to that motion?
I would say.
All right, all of you understand the motion? Set up a committee here to review this thing and come back at another meeting and make some recommendations. We got any discussion on that motion?
I don't wanna discuss the motion, but I do wanna make this comment, and, even if we had the money, I'm not sure one girl in the office could do the job statewide that we really need to do in this area. And I don't see how one person in the office could really replace 4 or 5 good active people in 12 or 14 different central body locations. This is,
It would be a terrific job.
if we
The
stick
job
it
would
down
be,
to
of
one
course-
poor little old girl, I think we, you know.
Well, the job, it'd be a terrific job getting the thing up to date. One girl couldn't do it, you see, to begin with. After you got the thing caught up, then as they sent them in, she could probably keep it up to date, but it would be a
What about them
tremendous job.
girls like y'all got working for y'all?
Neighborhood youth,
Where you at?
well, they can
Well,
be
maybe-
utilized in
I
some
didn't know- I
areas
didn't
where you
know
have such a program.
If they were available, may we make application for some help through one of the poverty programs. We need some.
You get neighborhood youth, labor unions is, there, acceptable organizations on neighborhood youth programs, cause you're nonprofit. But you're limited there, you only work them 6 hours a day or 30 hours a week total. And they are only trying to bring them up to pass a high school exam, and when they reach that level, they leave you anyway. So you might not have them very long, I mean, it's nothing you can invest in on a permanent
Maybe
sort
that's
of.
what we need to do.
Well,
is
I mean, you
get-
could do this to
investigate
get,
some of
to
these
get,
Right.
to, you ever
Get
got
up to date,
your
that's
card thing
possible.
up to date, and then you might hire somebody to keep it, see, after you
The-
go this initial time.
The problem on the neighborhood youth corps, and I don't even know if you have the project in Jackson as such, the problem is that you have to furnish them the equipment, supplies, and, constant supervision, or they won't grant them to you. In other words, you can't just put them off, say, in a central body office and have them work by themselves. They have to have a supervisor in the building with them at all times, or they won't assign one. So you'd run into
Be in
some
our
problems
office,
like
I mean,
that. It could be in the state office if you had the
Well, I'm
program
saying,
in
the state
Jackson.
office.
But I think you'd have to have a program here in this county in operation and apply to that particular program.
This is another problem with.
Let me get this, motion out of the way here,
You talking on this one?
No.
let's get the motion out of the way. We got any more discussion on, I think you understand the motion, we set up a committee to review the whole problem. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, I don't, particularly want to overload, members of the executive committee, but we do have 3 members of the executive committee present today.
I wanna know better.
I'm just gonna appoint those three members.
I wanna know better.
Those 3 members.
You asked for it.
Those 3 members of the executive committee, this committee, and I'll ask you all to get together and name yourself a chairman. Is that satisfactory?
Report back next Monday.
I believe it'll take longer than that.
Yeah, and of course, we'll do everything we can to cooperate with you.
Well,
And,
one thing the committee.
I'd like for you, while you're
information.
working on this thing, I'd like you just to review the whole program, all aspects of what we're trying to do. You might see some things here that Tom and myself have completely overlooked. Don't just confine it just to this one thing, but the whole thing.
Well, of course, in our particular area down in Claude, as you well know, of course, it's died in Jackson County and Harrison County, both in movement in that respect. But we have revived the central body in Jackson County to a point. But over in Harrison County, why, your central body there is almost, extinct.
Yes, they revive every 4 years. They get out and roll up their sleeves and do a bang-up job, and then they all go home and go to sleep again. I'm familiar with it.
In cases of that kind, why,
Gonna have to do a real
it's gonna.
rebuilding job.
I don't know.
Well, this is part of the problem we want you to look into and see if you can come up with some recommendations about the total thing.
Let me ask just
Now,
one
Tom,
question, and I think I know the answer to it, but
Yeah.
in areas where you had no central bodies, Tom, what'd you do? Send this information to the local union in that area, or did you do it at all?
No, we did. We never did get that far. It would've just been almost impossible to, single it out, like it's presently situated in the state. You've got quite a few locals in certain places where they're not in the jurisdiction of a central body.
That's the point I was raising.
Almost entirely impossible to have done it at a local union level, on a local union
Bring
basis.
up at the convention about these mailing lists, about how it's gonna cost us, and we're not gonna be able to do future elections with return postage. That's what's gonna kill us.
This is, go ahead, man, tell them yourself what the problem is.
I think he brought it up at the convention about the, future problem in a statewide mailing of return
The
mail.
importance of keeping the list
Those
up to
lists
date.
up to date. This is
Right.
either money that's just gonna have to go down the drain because we can't pay for the postage. But to come back to give us a correct address, and it's either.
Cost you more than the address is worth.
That's right, it's
It's
gonna
going
cost
up
us
to what,
20
20 cents now,
20
ain't it?
cents a piece.
20 cents a piece?
For
That's what it's
return
gonna cost in the
postage. And we
future.
can't afford
See,
to pay
we've
for it
had
to go
that
out
return
and then pay for it
requested
to come
on
back.
on
And it's
the,
just gonna have to go
That's
down the
outrageous.
drain.
the return,
The
see,
ones
this
that
is
don't
what
get it.
happens, what we've been doing is, on that bulletin that we sent out. You got address return requested. Now,
Right.
if this goes to a place that the person's moved, then they search that address out and give you the
But they
correct
charging
address.
you now 20 cents a
But
piece for that
It cost us
information.
8 cents even there, man. We spent a fortune, especially in the
You
fifth
might as well say,
district.
come 4 years now, if we expect
We're
to
gonna
have
have to
results
drop,
from
we're
a.
gonna have to
we're
drop
gonna
the
get about a,
return request,
what
it's
percent
prohibited.
results
Right,
on an
because
election.
of cost.
I mean, we got a wrong address that nobody gets it.
Nobody's gonna
So
get
that's the
money.
importance of the local union, keeping that list up to date, corrected,
Right.
you see? We just can't, I mean, we're gonna have to drop the return request to 20 cents a member, or break this organization.
Lord, that's equal to our per capita.
I never will forget, James, I never
No,
will forget,
we studied it, y'all someone gotta come up with.
down in Heidelberg a few years ago, when we were down there trying to help elect, Eddie Kite, the big Bell Common, went down and helped them set
Yeah.
up, got a permit, mailing permit.
Yeah.
Made a deposit and got things ready to go, and then we did a mailing to the membership in the fifth district.
Yeah, I remember that.
A few weeks later, we was down there, and Eula Liston was pulling her hair out. She was just throwing a fit. And, that stuff had started coming back, and she was having to pick it up and pay it out 8 cents a piece,
Yeah.
And she just couldn't understand it. She was sending it out for $1.25, but she was having to pay 8 cents to get it back.
Well, that is sort of confusing.
It's the devil out of me. I forget how much money, we made a fortune over here, Tom, the last statewide mailing we made. How much, Karen?
$400-500.
$400 or $500, on the last statewide mailing we made.
And half of them don't, you don't even get an address on it, they just say didn't get it, not
Not deliverable.
Not deliverable.
But you still have to pay the 20
You gotta pay for
cents
it to
for
come
it.
back. No, it's 10, they got,
10.
you can just get it back for 10 cents,
Get
it'll
it
tell
back
you
for
nothing.
10, you pull your plate then, see, that's what you get
Still
out
don't
of
know
it.
anything.
In other words, if they
Plate.
don't tell you anything, it's 10 cents, they tell you something, it's 20.
20.
Good Lord.
But that's prohibitive, we can't stand
We
that.
can't,
see.
I can see now that I don't think we can continue to have that on this folder. Whew.
So this is the whole program of problems,
That's it.
the mayor,
Key to the whole thing is, I guess, communication.
And this is really just because organizations don't keep their mailing list up to date with your office.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say one thing for you, it's a hard job to keep it right.
It really is.
We redid ours 2 months ago, and I'll bet you now there'd be 15 or 20 names, and if we give them to you, would be moved or.
We do ours monthly, and ours still slightly out of date, but we probably drive you all crazy.
Your organization does the best job of anybody trying to keep it up to date.
We do it monthly, we
I know it.
revise it every blame month.
That's what I say, it comes in every month. You do a good job keeping it up to date.
5,000
Tom, you said you wanted to.
in 14 different towns and 40
If you
different
don't-
counties.
Some of them don't send it in, hadn't sent one in 5 years.
I doubt you would.
Well, how many have you heard that list of locals I read and mentioned?
Never have seen it.
But we've got an office set up to handle it, we got an addressograph system, and we just correct our plate and run a card and send in the cards.
Well, my trouble is people move, they don't even bother to tell you about it.
Well, they don't us every time, but we handle all our own insurance claims. Every time they file an insurance claim, if they got a different address, we pick it up, see? Then we mail out stuff and we get it back. Then we just correct our plate and send them a copy of the car.
You and CWA have a terrific turnover in membership.
Oh, ours,
Women, see.
the turnover is probably 25% of our membership in a year turns over.
Yeah. CWA is about the same way. They got a terrific turnover also.
I think you ever keep a membership there without, her damn,
We got,
right, with this.
we got plant after plant with 100% membership, it takes a heck of a lot of digging, I'll tell you. We got some that's not 100%, we got about 4 out of 20 plants in the state that's not 100%. And then
That
some,
insurance
we've got
program,
1 or
they
2
just about gotta be a
people
member of the
we don't
union to participate in the insurance program, I mean. it's
No,
not- Well, they don't have to
That's
be,
the
but,
law. No. They can get the benefits regardless under federal law.
And it sort of makes it
Hard
a
to
little bit
bargain.
embarrassing though for you to handle it for them when they have to come collect.
Have to come look at you, fill out the form, hand it to you. However, some of them will do it.
Process grievances for 'em.
Let's get back to the, motion you just passed and the committee we set up. Would you wanna try to set a date or anything to report back, or how would you like to do this? How much
think the
time
first
do you
thing we ought
think
to
this
do
will
is
take?
Decide who our chairman is and then decide how we're gonna get together to sort of disseminate all this information to make any recommendation. I would say we could make some sort of a partial report, just speaking as a committee member at the next board meeting, whenever that is, but I'm not sure it could be a complete one.
Well, this is what I was getting at, you see. Now, here's probably what we're gonna have to do, after Jack and what's his name, Cabot, get this, thing drafted up, in the final form. We're probably gonna have to have another meeting of the committee to ratify that thing anyhow.
Yeah.
I don't know how long this will take. I doubt myself, if you can, you know, be ready. In other words, I think if you're gonna study this whole aspect, it's gonna take several days, several weeks.
Well, if we don't, I think we're kidding ourselves, especially with the point she brought up on all this cost involved. Now, if we don't evaluate all now, then,
Yeah. Of course, it's understood, I guess, is it not, that this committee that you set up here, that, any travel expenses they incur will be paid by the organization. That's understood, isn't it? In other words, if they have to come to Jackson and hold a meeting, or even go into some of the central body areas to make an investigation, then, expenses incurred certainly should be borne by the council, should it not? That's understood.
I think it should.
Yeah,
the
okay.
council won't be able to stand in it.
So let me ask you this, Claude, are these people on full-time anyway, or are they not?
These people here?
Yeah.
All three of them.
All of us are, I won't have any problem with my expenses, I never charge the council anything.
Robbie
No,
works,
Robbie-
Robbie works at the shipyard office down there. He and Jack and James are.
They tell you where they work or not?
That's right. In other words,
Well,
wouldn't be
not
any,
necessarily,
wouldn't be
but
any
I-
lost wages. Wouldn't be any lost wages as far as they're concerned. There would be with Robbie if he had to leave the job.
Well, I wouldn't even charge any of my expense to the council, I could handle my expense through my own international union.
Well, I don't think there'll be a whole lot of expense involved.
But I do agree that the ones that can't, it should be allowed them, because you can't expect people to travel free, I mean.
Yeah, anything else I need to bring up? I got one other thing here that I should have brought up here a while ago. I was talking about the,
Not charged.
Well, that's my problem also.
was talking about the, program and what have you. Another thing, that Tom and I've talked about some here in the past, it's not it's not an immediate problem, but there's always a possibility that something might come up, that I might get sick or get out of the picture. The Constitution does not provide for any officer next in line. Now, we've set up a committee to review our Constitution, to report back and make some recommendations the next convention. I've appointed Bill Stanley to chair this thing, the CWA, Fitzhugh in your organization, and McNeil in your organization, this three-member committee. And of course, they will probably, I'll call this to their attention, but, in other words, we got 5 vice presidents, all of them with equal status, none one of them number 1 or number 2, anything of this kind. Maybe we don't need it, you know, but there ought to be, I think, some, one vice president, somebody that, that would, in other words, if I was to drop out of the picture, you'd have to convene the board and stuff like this,
Yeah,
you see?
right off the top of my head, just as a first reaction to it, I would say that the best possible solution would be to leave it to the board to name a successor. Simply because if you name some particular position, you could in the future, certainly not the people that's around now, but you could have some guy, that you wouldn't wanna move on. And the board would have some remedy on this. It certainly could still be from among, the vice presidents or the board itself, for that matter.
Well, in the case something like this was to happen, would you not assume, that, Tom, as secretary treasurer, should convene the board?
Sure.
Certainly.
Sure, he'd be the other officer, and he should convene the board for a
Well,
decision.
now, if anything happens to him,
Then you'd have to convene the
naturally, I'd
board, so-
convene the board
Right.
to, review this, see?
Yeah, well, that could be spelled out, that the remaining officer would convene the board for a decision on a replacement, you know, or something on this order. But to just pick out a particular individual or a particular office,
Yeah.
I think would be pretty difficult.
Right.
In other words, for the Constitution to name a successor.
Right.
Well, I'm not necessarily talking about naming a
Right.
successor, I'm talking about,
Just to
The
get,
mechanics.
work.
The mechanics of the successor naturally would be named by the board.
By the
There's no
board.
question about this, but, who's gonna be responsible for convening the board? This
It's the
is-
remaining officer, this would be the logical,
Remaining
That-
officer within a specified length of time also, you want that in there.
Right, you should have a specified time. The board would be convened, we'll say within a 30-day period, no later than 30 days.
well, then you should even go one step further, even though I think it would work that way anyway. Something could happen that both of you could be gone at the same time. You
Mhm.
travel together, sometimes it could be a car wreck or something. You ought to even suggest to the committee
Yeah.
that they set out the procedure that the vice presidents would follow in case both of you.
Well, let's let your committee make a recommendation on this thing in the absence of a constitutional provision. And spell this out in your recommendations here as to how this would be dealt with.
You mean on this other committee that we're?
Your committee,
Yeah.
the study committee. Hope we don't have to go into anything like this, but there's always that possibility. It's been some time back since he and I were talking about it, but, there's really no provision there, you see. He and I both got killed in an automobile wreck down here. What happens next, you see? What do you do?
It's a good question, that's a good question, it's a good time to be brought up,
I
we
think
settled
the
that.
canvas has laid out, all kinds of, problems that can come up, you know, if you have to think of everything. Made us think of all the things nobody's ever thought about, I guess. We've just been working in the dark to a certain extent.
Y'all study this one with your committee along with your other recommendations, make one on that too. Well, we done finished up
Man,
the
didn't
business.
get our coat, didn't we? Did anybody
We didn't
else
order
want
any,
it?
everybody decided to drink ice.
Well, I
Everybody
didn't
said drink ice water.
My coat, I didn't know it.
Well, I made arrangements to serve lunch up here, and, somebody's gonna have to hang around here to eat it.
Are you gonna have beer water?
No.
This might be the last item, but I'm interested, on what, if anything, has developed since the convention in connection with our, Industrial Relations Center at, Mississippi State. Is there any
Yeah.
new developments on that?
Well, Dean Llewellyn called me, I believe it was early last week, making an inquiry about the thing, and I advised him, of course, that the resolution was unanimously adopted and that we had appointed a committee, to help, push the program, and, suggested to him that they proceed as soon as possible in the development and the printing of this brochure, and then when they got,
Help.
when they got that ready, then we would convene the committee. Convene the committee, and then make some definite plans and so forth to put the program over.
I don't think we can really talk to our membership about it,
Got to have the brochure.
intelligently
got to have the
until we get
information.
that brochure to outline the thing a little
Well,
more.
he assured me that he was gonna move, as rapidly as possible in this area. I'll be
Well, I
over
think
there.
if you push it, you don't have to wait for your brochure, I've already got the approval from.
I
my-
understand you're local, you
if you
know
like
that.
it, fine.
Push it. All we gotta
Well,
do is
I
get
will,
on it and get
Our
together.
folks just a little more cautious, they want to be sure they understand it.
Jackson County Central Labor Union
That'll
adopted
be
the
the
same
same way we meet.
resolution
You did?
Next
Good.
week.
unanimously.
Is that what you said, Jackson
What was
County?
Jackson County, CLU?
Right.
Well, another thing is a question they asked me out there and I couldn't answer it, who would you make that check payable?
Well, now, again, this
See, this
is
is-
some of the things that we've got to get together on, the reason we'll have this meeting. I explained, to him that the mechanics of the thing, was gonna also be important. We're gonna have to set up some trustees, a board of trustees to administer the funds, similar to this thing we're doing here.
I was wondering about that.
Yeah, this is all gonna have to be done yet, see?
Well, the way he explained it, I wasn't sure that was the intention of the university, is it? You know, there's one thing that bothers me about that program, and maybe they'll do it more effective that way. But this idea of several people spending a little time on it don't quite come off as well as one full-time person that's familiar with all facets of it to me, but maybe this is the institution of higher learning way of doing things.
Right.
But that bothers me a little. I'm wondering if there won't be a certain amount of overlapping or areas overlooked.
I'm sure that there will be, and that we're gonna have our work cut out for us in this whole scheme of things. Ms. Phillips prepared the quarterly standard of affiliates. Most of you, I think, got them before we off, but, I'm sure you'll take note of the fact that we've got more affiliated local unions now, I guess, than we've ever had as far as numbers concerned. She says that we got 140 now, you got 139 listed on this standing, and
What is it called, about a third, though, still of the potential?
about that. Just about. This, of course, is another one of our major problems, and your committee will probably want to study this too.
Well,
Add
it's
that
really-
to your list.
I see.
Why did we bring up this committee?
Where you working for, state?
Like everything else.
I don't know.
No end.
I'm wondering.
What is that?
Mr. Knight's got something he's gotta bring up.
Yeah.
Let me go back a minute.
Tom has got something he wants to bring up.
I wanna go back just a minute and make another statement about this, we was talking about this card file thing for the benefit of the committee. Another reason for the troubles with this program is simply this, that in some of these areas, there's no place to establish a card file. As you know, we, in this program of progress, we are allocated supposedly a certain amount there in the budget to furnish a room, an office, in each area whereby the card file would be kept. In most places, as a matter of fact, everywhere that we got a central body, they meet in some hall that belongs to some local union. Well, in some places, and I know this is, I don't have to tell you this, the feeling between some certain local union officers, and I don't have any particular organization in mind, this is just random, it varies. And some of the central body people, the people who run the program, is not too good. For instance, I'll cite one instance. I was at a certain place, prior to our convention, as a matter of fact, this year, 1916. And we had a central body meeting. It was the date that the central body's been meeting for 6 or 8 years. And the officers that have the key to the local union hall didn't even show up to let us in the local union hall. So you see, there's just this little lack of willingness on the part of various individuals and various unions here. And this, again, contributes to the slackness and the ineffectiveness and our hardships that we've had in this overall program. Some of these places are on streets and located in surroundings that you won't get no woman to go there and work. You know, during the hours when they could work. So there's this is just some more of the problems that I thought I ought to mention to you, that you'll have to be aware of these things, but you just got a multitude of problems involved in this thing. We've had it in places where some local union officers would come in while the girls are at work and of course make statements that they take to heart, and they say, well, we ain't gonna work here no more, they don't want us, you know, get back to this business of being a human being, it all enters into it. And one other thing I wanted to mention.
It's a problem.
And this is a kind of a peculiar situation. The Constitution provides that any affiliated local union shall pay on its entire membership. And of course, the committee has authority to act in these areas with reference to withdrawals and suspensions and re-affiliation, things of this kind. We've got one local union in the state right now that presents an extreme problem, I guess you'd call it. For years up in West Point, the Boilermakers maintained a little old local union of 16, 17, 18 people. Well, they organized the Babcock-Wilcox thing, which totals right at 800. Well, instead of establishing a new local, they've placed all of these members in this old established local union, 903, which has been there for years. Well, for a number of years here, since I've become an officer in the council, they didn't even have the few affiliated, but here several years back, they affiliated, I think it's 19 members. Now, they've come along and added the total membership of the local unions around 800 people, between 750 and 800. I have talked at length, so has Claude, with their representative, their international rep. I made a special trip to West Point, at least I come from Memphis, by West Point 2 Sundays before the convention, and made a meeting and attempted to get them to affiliate their membership. Well, up to this point, they don't even talk about it. So here's the problem. We got a local union here, it's got 800 people, and they got 19 members affiliated. And really, this is contrary to the Constitution. Now, we sat here today and said, well, this is the only problem we got. That wouldn't be true, but this is the only one of this nature that we've got, where you got a local union with 800 people, 19 of them affiliated.
Well,
So our question to you is, what do we do with this?
Well,
I mean, I've talked to the president of the local, I've pointed this thing out to him. I mean, we've done everything that we know to do, short of just telling them, now look, you're in violation of the Constitution, and you have one of two choices, either to affiliate the membership or we'll have to suspend the 19 members. This is the only thing we got left to do that we know.
No, I think that's what you should do.
I think that's all we can do. I don't think we can let it exist.
Well, what I thought we might try to do in this thing is to probably write the president of the International Union, cite the Constitution to him,
Yeah.
and make an effort one more effort to get the whole group in, and if they don't, then we'll just have to refuse to accept their affiliation check.
Yes.
See, they had this local
Secretary
union
can write them a letter and
organized. They
send them
had
a copy of the provision and tell them that as of a
Yeah.
certain month, if they don't affiliate their membership, he'll have to suspend their 19, that's all.
Yeah. See, they organized, like Tom said, they had a charter, they've had it for years. We had, put on this push affiliation back here, been several years ago. We had they come in, and, the group over in Mobile had a handful of members living in Mississippi. They wanted to affiliate both groups. I said, okay, we'll take them. They didn't have a contract, but they had a charter, a
Right.
little organization,
Have
so we accepted
membership.
their affiliation. And they've been paying dues on that 19 members now for, I don't know, 5, 6, or 7 years, see? And then when we still get, dues out of that Mobile group over on a small group.
What did the officers tell you when you talked to them?
Well, they promised, we're gonna take it up at the next meeting, see, now I ran into the international rep down on the coast, back in, early March. And he personally invited, see, we got talking about this thing, and I had to heed on the president of the local and some of the other officers up there. We got talking about this thing, and, he personally invited me to attend this meeting on Sunday afternoon.
Excuse me, while y'all talking about that, I think I'll call him and tell him to start getting this lunch served. We might well have an early lunch.
Right.
Sure.
I was going to Memphis anyhow, to this, meeting of state and local central body officers, sponsored by the Social Security Department. So I just, made it a point, I stayed overnight in Memphis, see, and came back by West Point. Well, they had a real good crowd there on Sunday afternoon. Well, he in the meantime had talked to the officer, told him he had invited me and I was coming and what I was coming for. Well, the president of the local gets me off before the meeting starts and tells me, well, I ain't gonna be able to bring this thing up. I wanna have a meeting of the officers and the executive board next week, early next week, see. And I told him, I said, well, I've come here purposely. Well, he says, you go ahead and talk about it. But he said, I got to have a meeting of the officers and board. I got to talk about this thing with them, see. In the meantime, I find out that they're interested in buying property, buying a building, see. And of course, this comes first there. then I can tell we got a real problem here with this thing. A couple of the guys, they had 2 delegates, see, they was entitled to 2 delegates with the 19-member affiliation. Well, one of the guys told Carolyn at the registration desk or something to the effect that they was gonna affiliate their membership. But,
We done got a check since then for the
we
19.
got another check for 19 members this week.
Disgusting.
Well, if we're through, I'm gonna bag you out, 'cause I got the family downtown and I gotta make a trip this afternoon.
Who's gonna eat that food over there?
Council, tell them don't worry.
I'll take it home and feed my family. I won't have to fix any dinner.
Speaking of the building,
Yeah, you go ahead, we through with our session, you go ahead and get ready to serve if you can.
speaking of the building, did you ever check any more on a building?
We haven't got, around to,
Start.
making any,
I knew you didn't have much time, I
Yeah.
was just curious.
We're gonna have to move out here in somebody's garage if the budget don't get better.
Come on out, fellas, y'all can live out there.
okay, man.
We'll see.
Good to have you over here.
And by the way, in case we might need a little help, moral help, we're opening our contract, provided the membership approves it
Yeah,
this next Wednesday.
yeah, Arnold was in the office the other day. Has there been any new developments out there with that Presto group?
They have moved in there with us, working out of the office, out of our local union there.
Yeah.
And you can't find out really too much for the people that's coming in and out, because you don't see the field rep, and you
Yeah.
know, no more than those other people out there know about it, you can't
Yeah.
really take what they say.
Yeah.
But they have been, ordered to negotiate by the 15th, and that's Monday. I don't know whether they'll appeal it again, or whether they've got room for another appeal.
The company had.
Yeah.
Well, I heard that if they didn't negotiate by 15, the people would,
Don't
start
walk.
a concerted efforts by the 15.
Yeah. Well, I heard that too, but I mean, I didn't hear.
Packing House Workers Local 1272 Vicksburg. Steel Workers Local 7256 Ackerman. Laborers Local 97.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
Project testing site in Hancock County. Now, they have just affiliated. Now, let me clarify this.
No,
Just a test.
Woodson's not here, and Herbert Williams is not here. Shoemake's not here. Marvin Taylor's not here yet.
That'd be like it was before.
They may have all gone home.
Operation. If you're local.
Call a meeting to order and ask you all to stand and ask Brother Taylor to give the invocation.
Our Heavenly Father, we thank Thee for the blessings of this day and all of its opportunities that's afforded us to serve Thee and to attempt to serve the people that we represent. We thank Thee for the opportunity of having the convention and all of the things that went into making it the success that it has been. As we come now to further transact business that would be for the welfare and the good of the organization that we represent, we pray Thy blessings upon us. Guide us and direct us in all our deliberations. May we attempt to do the things that would be right and proper, and that would do it in the spirit of friendliness and brotherhood, and be good for everybody concerned. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Well, I want to congratulate all of you on your election and welcome the new board members to the board. I don't know who did all the work in this thing, but somebody did a lot of reason of the schedule apparently. And, created a situation making it easier for us to deal with, I guess, because we eliminated the need of an election today and cut down on about 2 hours of time, and, which meant that the convention, kind of came to an end a half a day sooner than I thought it would. I personally feel that this was one of our better conventions. I think the best thing that we've ever done, frankly, was having Mr. Falk over last night. We've heard an awful number of good remarks from
think we'll have more legislative group next time too.
Yeah, I don't think they really realized what they were missing.
I heard comment from several legislators last night that wasn't even in my company. I just overheard their comments, and they said that they didn't think that any planning of any entertainment could have been more perfect for the occasion.
Right. Well, we will try to get this meeting over as soon as possible. We don't have any, what you might call pressing business. It's more or less routine business to take care of after any convention where we have to sign the leaders of the various officers. Of course, consider any matter that any of you might want to bring before the board. The first thing I'll present to you is the assignment of the duties of the two full-time officers. It stands now, Secretary Treasurer Knight is the co-director, and I'm the legislative representative, in addition to the other duties of the office, and that applies to him too, of course. So what is your pleasure in connection with this matter?
I move that both officers continue to assume the same responsibilities that they have been the past 2 years.
All right, you got it.
I'll second it.
We have a discussion on that motion? If not,
Yes, I have a question. Just you and him on, take care of legislative matters?
well, he's
Or you call in the vice president when you need assistance in getting the bill properly represented?
well, I handle the legislative, affairs of the organization, and when I mean that, it takes in the lobbying, the testimony before committees, and things of that kind, and from time to time, it depends upon the situation. I might call on some of the vice presidents to go, if we have a bill up for hearing or something, participate in the hearing. And that's pretty well the way it's done. Of course, in addition to that, we get out a legislative report to all of the affiliated organizations each week when it's in session, try to keep them informed.
In addition, Claude, this hasn't been practiced too much in the past, but as legislative representative of the Carpenters Council, I am available upon call for specific assignments that might be, where I might be needed of some help. And that was more or less restated.
From the Carpenters Council?
Yeah, that would be, of course, working in conjunction with your help, if and when I'm called by you.
Well, I keep that in mind, if we have any, of course, you got Rainey with firefighters, that handles a lot of the, well, as a matter of fact, he is your legislative representative, and, I try to communicate with him as much as possible, to keep up, with what's going on, as far as legislation, especially public employees and so forth. And of course, you've got other groups over there, Railroad Brotherhood, for instance, they keep somebody around there, but they don't cooperate with anybody. The barbers are in the legislation, and we try to keep up with what they're trying to do and try to assist them as much as we can.
Well, I may be wrong, but I believe the president of the AFL-CIO state and legislature representative should be able to call on any union man in the state if he thought he would be of any help. And he's not a union man if he wouldn't come and help.
Yeah, well, of course, we do this.
Not just
Depends
about
on the
state.
existing situation. For instance, one time over there, during a special session, we had, this milk, bill, investigation going on concerning the milk commission. They had a, hearing. It lasted several days over there, and I got a committee of housewives and went over and testified in that situation. Got my wife, and Bill Stanley's wife, and several people like this. It really depends on the situation, and you know, there's no set rule that you can operate on. For instance, on unemployment insurance, when we had the hearing out here at the commission, we got several local several members of the board, Bill Stanley, people like this, and then Tom presented our case because Bill and myself were on the advisory council. You see what I'm talking about? This is the way we try to handle it. I grant you it's a full-time man. What this organization really needs is a man that doesn't have to do anything but handle that deal when the legislature's in session. But we can't afford it, so there's nobody to talk about it.
Outstanding legislative committee.
Huh?
Do you have a standing legislative committee?
You mean on the board?
You appoint a legislative committee?
The executive committee, of course, is your legislative committee. The executive committee, of course, meets more often than the board does. That's your five vice presidents, full-time officers, and it's not anything uncommon for me to call them into session on a 1 or 2 day notice to deal with some of these matters like you're talking about, you see.
Claude, I think it would be well to say right at this point, for the new members especially, that the convention, through the adoption of resolutions, has already directed the body for the next 2 years' move.
Right.
Now, if this course needs alterations, then chances are you've got an executive board meeting.
Right.
If it's a specific dealing with resolution, what should we do relative to the resolution that was adopted at the convention?
Right.
Then the executive committee is normally called together to handle this affair.
Right.
But the convention has pretty well charted the course through resolutions of the actions of this organization for the next 2 years.
Well, this is it. Basically, this board and the committee acts in behalf of the organization between conventions.
Right.
I'm ready to vote.
The motion is that the duties of the two full-time officers be the same as they have in the past 2 years. We have any further discussion?
One comment, probably go unsaid as well. But with the assignment of duties, without saying,
Yeah.
you have a right to call upon Tom has a right to call upon you.
Right.
To cover these areas.
Right.
Needs covered.
Of course, this is the way we try to operate.
Sure.
Yeah. Any further discussion? Not all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. The next thing is, I am undecided which one to bring up first. We're gonna have to decide what you're gonna do about salaries for the full-time officers and what you wanna do about salaries for the secretaries. And then we've got a committee that was set up several months ago to study possibility of some kind of a pension plan for the employees of the organization. And it was agreed that report would be held in abeyance until a new board was elected. The board didn't feel that they should do anything until after this convention had acted. And anything we do here this afternoon, by the way, is contingent upon Brother Smith here and what the National AFL-CIO is willing to do is about continuing the subsidy. For the benefit of the new board members here, we get 2 subsidies from the national organization. We get one of $5,000 a year towards the maintenance of a full-time co-director. Then we get another one that was put in effect here several years ago to keep the organization afloat and maintain a full-time president. The organization is not self-supporting. The affiliation thing is not sufficient at this time to carry the load by itself. What is the subsidy? The 6,000 on one and 5 on the other. 6,000 on one and 5 on the other. So I think probably what we ought to do before we get into this thing is to hear from Stanton and find out what he thinks that the national office is willing to continue subsidizing the organization before we talk about setting salaries.
Question, is this $6,000 used entirely on the president's salary?
Well, it's, not used on the president's salary, it's just put in the general fund, and that's it.
It's part of the operating expenses, yeah. It's not earmarked for any specific item, but it's a contribution or subsidy to help defray the cost of running the organization.
On the $5,000, you did put in the same thing?
Well, no, it is.
It's
$5,000.
No, it's earmarked, it's earmarked, and we have to put up, a matching money, equaling money to maintain the man, as far as the co-director is concerned. So there is a difference in the two. See?
Yeah, the $5,000 from COPE is a matching grant for specific employment of a COPE director, or a WAD director in some states, it is both ways.
Yeah.
Of course, I don't have the authority to say that it will be continued, but I can tell you that my recommendations have never been turned down yet. And, I've looked over your financial statement and your, audit, CPA audit, and, it would be my judgment that you're not yet ready to stand on your feet without that $6,000.
Would it be any way to get ready for 10?
We never have given a subsidy that large, but, I can conceive of a situation in which we might, but I don't see it right now.
I'd like to ask you or something. Present rates, that way things stand right now, just about everybody in another year is gonna be faced with about 13% more tax overall on their earnings. Sales taxes going up and everything else is going up. At least more money.
Well, we all need more money. AFL-CIO needs more money. We try to match the subsidy to the needs in each particular situation. For example, in one state that we've been subsidizing for the last 4 years, we cut it off this year, because they had built up a substantial balance in their general fund, and as a matter of fact, increased their general fund more than the amount of the subsidy they received from us last year.
We have to see this.
So, we felt that we couldn't justify continuing the subsidy in that case, so we stopped it without prejudice to renewal of the application if the situation should change. We don't subsidize all of our state federations in general, just a handful of them. Those that have special problems because of small membership in the state, or because of an unusual situation, problem in a given state. But we make each of these judgments on a case-by-case basis, try to match our financial assistance to the needs of that situation. And it would be I can tell you that I will recommend the continuation of it on the basis of the situation as it now is. And I have every reason to believe that it will be continued.
That's what we
Mr.
need to
Smith, can
know.
I ask a question? In a few moments, I guess we will be considering a possible increase of salaries to our 2 full-time people, plus our office staff. Now, in view of that, would your recommendation to the national body take into consideration any increases that we might consider here today?
I don't think so, unless, well, I can't conceive of this happening. I was gonna say, unless the increases that you grant would unbalance your budget, to the point where you're going to not be able to operate. I don't think it will do that, I'm sure it won't. You have not a large, but a substantial balance in your general fund. and in your other funds, so that, even though it's merely continued at the present rate, plus increases in salaries, there's enough cushion there, so that you won't have to reduce your activity. If you start to get into financial trouble, you can always come back. And you remember 1 year, because of a situation that developed, we added an additional flat $1,000 contribution, just to...
Well, the situation we have now...
In other words, we're going to, as long as the Mississippi AFL-CIO is doing the kind of a job it's doing now, we're not going to let you stay, we're going to stand behind you.
Well, I feel like...
This I have the assurance of the President's office on.
Well,
I feel like we have proved to you year after year that we are trying to pick up part of this that y'all, it's gotten for them to keep doing it too. Like we have been, like you were saying there, we have a cushion. In other words, we need to do that all the time. We gotta keep working to do it.
Well, the situation has improved considerably on affiliation, and with assurance here that the subsidy will continue at the present level, with the increased affiliation and the possibility of further increases. It means that we can make some adjustments here without being in trouble, is what it means.
That's what it sounds like.
But we have to have the assurance of the $6,000 even talk about anything.
Yeah, otherwise you're in trouble immediately.
Right.
As a matter of fact, the figures are not precise, but at the time we started this subsidy, you had approximately 15,000 members in the affiliated unions.
Yeah.
Paying per capita. Now it's up to around 24,000.
No, 22.
22?
Almost 23, isn't it?
It's 21,300.
Okay, well, 22.
22.
That's a substantial increase, see. 6,000 on top of 15. And this shows real progress. And we're happy and think our money's well spent.
Well, that, then I think puts us in a position where we can discuss the matter in a more intelligent fashion, we'll say. That's probably what's...
Yeah.
We sent out a search party for you.
The room down there?
Excuse me for being late.
Like a salad express?
He had fractured on the front.
Yeah, I think so.
Well, we'll take up the matter of salaries then for the 2 full-time officers and find out what you want to do about the salaries of the office secretaries.
What is that, President?
This,
Tom?
not
Or
just
give
the
up?
salaries, we've written asking for opening our contract just for negotiations.
Well, of course, that's what I meant, was what do you want to do about this? Well, let's take care
Mr.
of
Chairman, on the
office employees
on the
first.
office employees, I make the motion that the secretary and president be authorized to negotiate with secretaries.
The office workers.
Right, the rates for agreement.
You got your picket sign
We
ready?
better reach an agreement, though, we got a lot of
I
signs.
second the motion.
You got the motion that the secretary treasurer and the president be authorized to meet and negotiate an agreement with the office workers and their representatives.
That's right.
Any discussion on that?
How many representatives does the union have on there?
They usually outnumber us.
Maybe we should bring in somebody else.
That convention tore us up.
Especially with the business agent for the office worker sitting there listening to all of it.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, this has been the standard procedure, in the past.
I believe we have.
I'd be glad to turn this job over to somebody else.
I don't think it ought to be turned over to anybody else. I thought maybe we should have, maybe one of the vice presidents, they had time to sit in on the negotiations
Be
too.
glad to have.
Well, I'll be glad to sit on one side of the table and ask a question when I'm on the other side then.
You see, he is a vice president, he's also the business agent for the
I wouldn't want him on the
office.
other side of the table, brother.
Well, if we get in difficulty, we'll be calling on some of you guys anyhow about it.
If they don't reach an agreement, I guess the executive committee will have to meet.
If we can't work out an agreement, we'll be calling an emergency session of the executive committee.
Can't agree, you'll get out and help them take it.
You got any further discussion on that motion? You ready to vote? All in favor of the motion, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now that leaves the secretary treasurer and the president's, situation to deal with.
What is that present salary clause?
10,000.
10 clause.
Well, we got a committee on there. Study the pension. I thought they didn't consider the salary thing, you know. It was straight matters.
Mr. President?
Yeah.
I would offer you a motion that in your call for a vote, that you do it by raising your right hand instead of using that.
I'll second that motion.
Did you do what now?
That you call for the vote by raising of the hand instead of yea and nay.
All right, we'll do that on this last one. All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. It's unanimous. Motion carried, so ordered. Okay, what's your pleasure on the salary thing? Would you announce what the salaries are now, Ms. Phillips?
10,000 and 9,450.
10,000 to the president, 9,450 for the secretary treasurer.
What is the present salary? Some of them I
I
don't know.
Well, you
didn't-
just quoted.
I thought that was what was gonna raise you.
No, that's why.
You starting the bargain already?
I wanna raise a question. Is salary and pension the only stairs we're gonna discuss, or are we gonna cover, other items, of expense?
Well, the whole matter is up for consideration. You wanna discuss salaries and, expenses, that's all right too, but you have to keep in mind that,
Why don't you outline what the present practice is?
well, the present practice, is,
Respect to expenses.
that the expenses, of the full-time officers fall in the same category as board members. You
Right, I understand.
receive $8 a day, plus hotel expenses when you're on the road. And the same thing as far as travel expenses going out of the state and things of this kind. And that's it, there's no in-town expenses, anything of this kind, if this is what you meant.
I just thought that some of them might not know.
Yeah, there's no expenses unless he or me one are out on the road.
Now, in
It's in the
addition to that, you
Constitution, they'll give it to
receive,
you.
some
I don't
insurance
determine the
benefits,
right
right?
hand.
Yes, we've got,
In your case, you
we've
need
got,
to at future
the
meeting
council
today.
pays for, hospitalization and some small life insurance, it's not too much, is it?
And
50% of the
Yeah, 50% of your salary is what it amounts to.
And it also, medical.
Yeah, medical and hospital, yes. We got out the policy with that the AFL-CIO carries.
Part of the master policy.
Right.
The national.
Yeah.
Right. Well, the reason for my question, I'm not opposed to discussing any of it, but I just wanted to be sure of how broad we were discussing. In other words, if we're only talking about salary, then, one figure might be acceptable. If we're talking about it all, then the salary figure might have to.
The whole matter is up for review, let's put it that way, but I would remind you see, that the Constitution spells out a certain situation.
Right.
And you wouldn't be able to alter that.
Not without a vote of the
Without a
convention.
vote
no.
of the convention.
This covers the office force and
The office employees, all of us are covered by the same insurance program.
Well, I understand this insurance program don't have major medical. Am I right or wrong on that?
No, we don't have major medical, in the program.
There's 4 different plans, Brother Dees, Plan A, Plan B, Plan C, and Plan D. And we, when this was first, initiated, the condition of the council was such at that time, until we didn't ask for too much, we got the one just above the bottom rung on the ladder, you know, that fits Mississippi kind of the bottom or next to the bottom.
You gotta get over that negative thinking.
We got Plan C is what we've actually got. And it's quite a bit different to A and B.
Yeah, that's what I was asking.
Better plan.
Well, I just asked the question, bring it out, for some board members may not know what it covers. I think everybody should have that major medical in the plan if it's possible to get it.
I'll tell you, I'm gonna make a motion that we consider today only salary and pension or severance for the two top officers and not change any other items of expense. The reason for my motion is I think we ought to know what we're talking about in terms of cost to the council, and if we make decisions here today on major medical or other items that we don't know the cost, then we're sort of fishing in the dark, and I think we're kidding ourselves. And this is really the reason I raised the question to begin with, to see how broad we was gonna be. So I am making a motion that we certainly do consider the salaries of the two top officers and discuss the pension or severance proposal, but not change any other items at this time.
That we not go into the
Right.
insurance program.
And of course, what happens on the office workers is up to negotiations. I'm not including in my motion that they're limited to this. This is a matter of open negotiations, and whatever they can get out of you, then they're entitled to, so.
You're gonna want to confine it just to salary and.
I think so.
And the pensions of the two full-time officers.
I think this way we'd know what the cost,
Right.
what total dollars we're talking about, and know what's possible.
All right, we get a second to that motion?
I'll second.
We're having a discussion on the motion. All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Okay.
I'd like to ask a question at this point. Are we to consider today anything in regard to automobiles, or is
Well,
there
that's
any?
already in there.
Well, that has been taken care of by previous board action because
That's-
of some of the various problems that
Right.
came up.
I knew that, that's the reason I
The
made the
board,
motion. Right.
authorized us when the need arose, to go ahead and take care of this matter. So it won't really be necessary to get into it. I can advise you that I think we drive these cars a while yet, can't we, Tom?
I
Mine's in
think
pretty good shape.
without, somebody runs into me, mine will go another year.
I think I can get another year at least out of mine, so this is not a pressing problem in itself. We got a little heavier car this time, and it's held up much better. We got those little small Fords the time before that, and they're both of them shot at about 50,000 miles. We got an Impala Chevrolet. And they're holding up much better than that Ford. So that's not a problem. The automobile is not a problem.
I was just asking for information.
Well, I should have mentioned this already.
I'll get a plug in for General Motors and change Colin's car.
I think they'll tell him what Daniel's so at.
And the vehicle man, you had been urging you to buy us a Volkswagen.
Well, you might just well go get you one of these, Hondas.
That's what I think, a motorcycle.
Mr. Chairman, present salary is either right on the bottom or below the bottom rates for other states in the same area.
Yeah, let's let Stanton, tell you what the situation is as far as the comparison of salaries and stuff.
You might expound on that if you might, Stan.
Well, I forgot to bring that chart with me, but when I made it up, I took the, 10 southeastern states, I believe it was, that I had 10 on there, wasn't it, Carolyn? And, with the exception of South Carolina, which has no full-time officer, which we regard as a serious mistake, the, Mississippi salaries are at the bottom of the southern state federations. The highest one in the South is, my successor in Tennessee with 15.6. I think there are a couple at 15, and, 12.50 and 11.
You recall what Arkansas is?
I think Arkansas is 12, I think.
11-5. Jacob told me this trip, but
Well, it wouldn't do for us to catch up or get ahead of anybody, then we wouldn't be on the
Leave
clock.
Alabama's 12, top off at 12, and the next officer is 11.
That's right, it would be.
Yeah, I said Alabama's 12, the next officer's 11. Louisiana, the president gets 12, and the secretary treasurer, the next officer 11.
Are these current or
In
year-old?
Arkansas, they both get the same. What'd you say?
Are these current or a year old?
Except for Louisiana, they're on the report at the end of 67. The report
Which
covering.
means they're current.
Which means they're current. Louisiana, in filing the report, failed to list the salaries, and I had to write for them, and I didn't get them in time.
Well, this is 2 years.
Yeah, this has been the practice, now it's up to the board.
Well, now, the reason I missed it, for the fact that it would be 2 years, because
Yeah, well, this has been the past practice. I mean, the board, I guess, can come in and adjust them during the period, but the practice always has been that the salaries are set and stay in effect until the next convention. This has been past policy.
You're not bound by the laws of the organization. You can change, the board can change them at any time, so up or down.
Well, one of my reasons for asking that question is that we have criticized Mississippi being on the bottom of the ladder on every damn thing in the world. So I'm a little bit, concerned about keeping the labor movement on the bottom of the ladder also. So I'm ready to move forward a little bit.
Well, let me.
Mr. Chairman, in order to progress the discussion, I'll offer a motion that we grant 12%.
12% increase. Get a second on that motion.
I'd like that question.
We got a second, let's see if we got a second on the motion. We got a second on the motion? I don't believe we got a second.
Be $1,200.
Let them think a little bit. Let them think a little bit, yeah.
You wanna think a little bit, do a little figuring before you can see what, the motion is 12%, we'll let you do a little figuring before we find out.
Yeah, it'd be
if it's
12.
Yes.
12% on 10 would be 12. It wouldn't
I figured on 10.
I figured that can be 20.
That'd be $1,200.
Well, what do you consider?
I gotta.
You can, this is for the two of them,
I'd like to amend that motion. I don't like that percentage, and I'll tell you why I'm gonna disagree with you, Brother Schaefer. I think on the percentage, it's percent of what, and you would create a wider spread between your Secretary Treasurer and your President that now exists, and I don't believe that would be proper. Because 12% of 9.4 is not as much as 12% of 10,000, and you're spreading the gap between these two officers with your suggestion.
Well, certainly it wasn't any form of discrimination.
No, I understand that, but
I
that's what it would
I
do.
bargain percentage all the
Right.
time. We take a $400 plan,
we do.
and we bargain percentage.
Right.
Then every so often, we come back for adjustments.
Right.
This way, well, you just do a more effective job of bargaining, in my opinion. We take our groundman, bargain at the highest paid man, which is control and operator, based on percentage. And this, every so often, we come back, review classifications, and adjust inequities in classifications based on national surveys. And we haven't done too bad a job. That's just our way of bargaining.
Well, now, when you come back and adjust inequities, why, then you agreeing that you have created inequities.
Percentage will create inequities.
It will, that's the point I'm making.
Well, could I offer a suggestion?
Let me ask you to talk one at a time so we can all hear what you're saying.
I'd like to offer a suggestion. I mean, I bargained several times with the company and all, but I think that we would need to talk among ourselves a little bit without the presence of you and Tom of this, because we might have something we want to say on it.
Get out of here anyhow. Let's go
I might not want you to hear.
Let Stanton Smith, chair of this meeting. Vice President Taylor, you come around here, you're the closest.
Would you like me to get out too?
No,
No, you can stay.
We need you, that's good. I'd rather have somebody else chair this session.
James is good. James, will you chair the meeting?
One of you vice presidents.
I might wanna make a motion.
I will leave you, buddy.
Jack, you chair the meeting. Go around and chair the meeting. You want to chair? All right, well, y'all
Let's
stand
stand
chair.
here. I may make a motion.
Okay?
Okay, I'll.
I think I do back to me.
You come on now. Let me get my coat. This is the best night anybody's had yet. Now I have to remember this, the next time we get into this thing.
Now you can say what you really think.
We'll let you go.
I'm getting it on tape.
We'll go down and get some coffee.
Do
We'll
they
get down
want
and
this
get
off
coffee.
the tape?
Huh?
No.
Why would you want it on tape?
What do you want?
Because I might say something I wouldn't want him to know I said.
Well, that doesn't make any difference, I mean, we'll say whatever we want to.
Well, I realize that.
If any board members raising a question of the tape, I would make a motion that the tape be turned off.
Second motion.
Motion made and seconded to turn off the tape during the discussion of the salary, which would mean.
Well, then I might as well leave too.
No,
Must leave.
no, just,
Well, when we get going to making a motion.
when it gets down to the actual business, we'll want it, but just for the purpose of
Is
discussion,
there any
Chairman.
discussion of the motion to turn off the tape during the discussion of the salary? If not, as many as favor will hold up your right hand. Opposed, by the same sign, carried.
You state your motion.
I would like to make a motion that we neither decrease or increase the dollar spread between that of the president and the secretary treasurer of the Mississippi AFL-CIO at this time.
Is there a second motion? Motion made and seconded to maintain the present dollar spread between the two executive officers, president and secretary treasurer. Is there any discussion? Not all who favor keeping this dollar spread as it now is, will raise your right hand. Hands down, opposed by the same sign. Ballot is carried by a majority. And that means that, what you need to do is figure out X number of dollars to be added to each salary. Now, how much will that be?
You would still want the machine on?
I think we're ready to make a motion now. We decided the basic direction which we're gonna move. If you're gonna raise, the raise is either gonna be $1,000 or $1,200 or $1,500 or whatever figure you decide on, or to be for both officers, under the motion just passed.
Well,
How much, what figure do you wanna make it?
Whatever motion's made, must be enough.
I think a gentleman over there.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion to raise the president, secretary and treasurer salary, $1,400 a year.
$1,400 a year increase for each officer.
And if necessary, you hold a meeting 1 year from today, make adjustments, increase if necessary, depending on resolution.
Heard the motion, is there a second? Is there a second to the motion? Did you all hear it? The motion dies for want of a second. All right, what figure do you want?
Mr. Chairman, I move that both people be increased $1,200 per year.
I would second that motion.
The motion has been made and seconded to increase the president and the secretary treasurer the amount of $1,200 per year. Is there any discussion of that motion?
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask you one thing.
Yes.
You read that financial report, does that look like it'd be a sound figure as far as you're concerned with them, keeping us in the black and everything good?
It's a perfectly justified figure, and I think you can live with it. You may, if your membership doesn't increase further, it's possible that you may have a declining balance, but I don't think it's gonna endanger your balance. If it does endanger your balance, why, when that time develops, we'll have to reconsider the relationship with between the national office then.
That would be within our bounds.
I believe that
Yeah,
would.
include tax knowledge.
Is there any further discussion or question?
Is this gonna be for the whole 2-year duration? This term of office?
It is not, the motion does not fix it for any specified time, and, it would be the judgment of the chair that, it'll stay at that figure until changed by the board.
Right, that was the intent of my original.
Actually, the board could change it next month.
It should, yes, the beginning of the next month.
Is there any further discussion? Would you like to include in the motion the starting time on this? We're in the middle of the month.
I was making a suggestion the beginning of the first of the next month.
Is it acceptable to begin the increase as of April 1?
April 1.
Any objection? If not, we'll consider the motion to be amended with increases to begin as of April 1. Is there any further discussion? If not, all in favor, raise your right hand. Down. Those opposed by the same sign. It is carried unanimously. Okay, we disposed of that. Now,
Can we invite them back in?
I think so.
do you want to talk about the pension, and we can talk about that with them here?
I think so.
Just the salary thing that was a little.
That's right, that's right.
Well, the comment was made that this really isn't enough, and I would agree, it's not enough. It takes, given today's times, it takes a fairly decent salary to attract the kind of leadership that you need in a state organization. But you also have the privilege of making a change in this in 6 months. There should be some change in the economic picture. You could always change. In other words, you're not.
Well, I'm concerned you can keep chairing this meeting. Here. Let me ask you this, have you got into the pension retirement thing any? So that's.
We decided to get you back before we did that.
Well, I'd prefer you to handle that while we were going. That's what you're doing. Would you like to step out while you consider that?
I don't.
We raised that issue and they all decided to rather have you here.
Did you see the newspaper report?
Yeah, and I told him I didn't know how long you'd be in this executive session. It was important, in my opinion, that we not disturb you. We told him that the Daily News man was down here and got pictures. We could see why I could get one from them. He said, well, we work separately, but sometimes we get a photograph from him. I said, I think this is your best bet right now, so he's gone.
I just want to know if he's.
I told him if he couldn't get one from him to come back and we'd see what we could do. Okay, we, for the benefit of the new board members, I think I mentioned this earlier, the old board authorized the executive committee to do a study on pension plans and so forth of other state councils. And they were supposed to give a report back to this board meeting. For the benefit again of the new members, the state organization does not have any kind of retirement program for the 2 full-time officers or the employees of the organization. We've been working with Brother Smith here. He's, for not several years, he's been trying to do something about getting the state council officers covered by the AFL-CIO pension plan, the plan that's cared for the AFL-CIO employees. We haven't been able to work anything out on that. And we felt that this should be done. So Brother Jackson was the chairman of that committee. That committee was made up of the 5 vice presidents, and Brother Knight and myself, sit in only when they got around to, evaluating and considering. The 5 vice presidents actually did the study and the work on this. So I'm gonna ask Brother Jackson, who was chairman of that committee, to give you a report.
Claude, I don't believe, in this meeting I go over all the stuff that we did. I think we'd be here, as you can
Yeah,
see,
it'll take a
for
long time,
an undetermined amount of time. The main thing we did, we wrote a letter to all the state councils over the whole country and asked them to send to us copies of any plan that they might have in existence. Of course, we found a variety of things happening. Several states had no plan at all, similar to our situation. Some states had plans which in our opinion was completely prohibitive as far as costs, ranging from 13 to 16 and 18% of gross salary. Other plans had the drawback feature that you had to back pay to get into these, which meant, again, it was impossible because it would have cost many $1,000s to have joined and back paid on the employees involved in some of these plans. So to make a long story short, for example, West Virginia, North Carolina, Idaho, Georgia, Louisiana, Virginia, and Alabama, and Mississippi has no plan whatsoever, or didn't at the time we were writing them about it some 3 or 4 months ago. We looked over several different type plans, and we came up with the suggestions of not a retirement plan as such, but more of a severance plan. Since none of us are getting any younger, we had a problem, especially with the 2 elected officers of the council, being at the age that a back payment would have been impossible, and not having really enough years in the future to have got enough equity in a plan to have meant anything to them when they went out, and certainly wouldn't have offset the cost we'd have had to pay for it at this stage of the game. Arkansas had a plan of severance that we studied, and we even modified that a little bit, and their plan was that the officers of the Arkansas Council pay 3% of their gross salary into this fund, and that the AFL-CIO in the state of Arkansas matched it with 3%, which meant participation from our organization and the elected officers. Looking at our funds and knowing that the officers certainly need an increase in salary, and knowing that the office workers need an increase in salary, our committee didn't recommend even the 3% and the 3%. We recommended still a different basis of a plan, and it went similar to this. We would recommend to the board a plan that would require 2.5% payment by the state council, 2.5% by any employee who wanted to participate. It wouldn't be compulsory if one particular officer or employee felt that they didn't want to participate in this plan. It would not be compulsory, with 2 other stipulations. One is that a committee or trustees would be developed to invest these funds so that the funds just wouldn't lay idle in a bank somewhere and be worth the same dollar value at the end that they were in the beginning, but would be invested on the best interest return rate that would be safe to invest in. And this would be governed by a committee set up for this. Then we made one other suggestion out of fairness.
Let me interrupt you right here. You're talking about a committee of the board members?
Committee of the board members, or a committee the board members would select, whether it would be purely board or whether this is sort of open, Claude. We just felt that a committee ought to be, a permanent committee ought to be set up and maintained to ensure the proper investment of these funds in a safe investment with as big a return on the dollar as possible. One other thing that we're faced with, and I think we should recognize it, we all supposed to represent labor, and we should practice what we preach whenever possible and wherever possible to the extent of our ability. We have some people who's been with the council much longer than others. Some of the office workers have been much longer than others. The committee suggested some sort of a beginning lump payment into this fund, and this would come strictly from Mississippi AFL-CIO funds, worked out on the basis of a certain amount per year per employee to begin this fund. For example, if you said $25 a year, and Carolyn's been with us, I think, about 10 years, so you'd multiply hers by 10, and then the people that's been less, you'd multiply it in this fashion. So this would sort of be a beginning fund to try to do a little something for all the years that's been put in with no compensation therefore. And this was sort of the committee's report. And we did the best job we knew how. We thought this plan would mean more, for example, to the people involved than any of the retirement plans other states had, simply because at this stage of the game, none of us knows who gets elected at each convention. So an officer could be in this thing 7 or 8 or 10 years and then get dropped at some future convention and lose the whole thing, and then the council would be paid the money, but the guy really wouldn't receive it. Or say an office worker, if this applied to them, and we discussed the office workers to this degree, that we would certainly agree that they could participate in this plan if they so desired, in the absence of any retirement being negotiated in their office workers' contract. If and when a retirement was negotiated for them, then we just have to weigh that and see what it amounted to. But the opening discussion of the committee was that it would be available to all of the council's employees, whether they were officers or office workers.
What, may I ask, did you arrive at any figure for this lump sum thing?
No, we did not. We discussed it, and we realized it can't be a huge amount. But we really did not recommend, and I was using the $25 figure for example purposes only. I don't think that figure would be out of line personally, but the committee did not actually take a vote on that issue. I'd be glad to try to answer any questions that any of the board has on what else we looked at or what it come to. But
Dave? Jackson, much more familiar with this time, but we have anybody working full-time that has been in another international organization where they have had or have retirement plan there that Mississippi AFL-CIO might pay into to keep them covered while they was in office. IBEW does that.
I don't believe you'd find very many that would.
You know what I'm speaking about, Jack?
Neither of your present officers have.
No, none of the present officers. One final thing I'd say about this, the way this severance thing would work, say 6 years from now one of the officers wasn't reelected, then he'd be entitled to his equity in this severance fund. And of course, you'd have to figure a way to give him his accrued interest on the amount he was entitled to, so that he'd get his pro rata share of the investments of the funds.
There's one way that this can be done that's relatively simple and possibly might produce as big a steady income as you get, and that is to put it in a savings and loan where you fully protect it up to what, 15,000?
15,000.
Well, we discussed that in the committee.
What you could do would be to open up a separate account for each officer.
Right.
And then at the end of each month, you would put into that fund
Whatever his pro rata.
then that's his.
Right.
It's his contribution plus the council's contribution.
Plus his interest.
Drawing interest.
Right.
And whenever he
This
quits,
is what we
gets
have.
fired, or retires, or
Then
dies.
he draws this out, or she.
That fund belongs to that person, or his
Right.
estate.
This is sort of what we had in mind, similar to
I
similar.
don't know whether you could get a better rate of return by investment than that or not.
Question. If he just, say for instance, that this program was instigated, and 3, 4, 6 years from now, one of the officers is not reelected. So he just draw the right share that he invested in out of his
No.
salary.
No, you get the whole thing.
He'd get the 5%, the 2.5, the 2.5.
This is in lieu of a pension, you
Right.
say, and so this is his
Plus the
fund.
lump payment, plus the
Severance
interest.
pay. Severance pay, it's
That's
in lieu of a pension.
It's not a thing in the world, but a kind of a savings plan
That's
that's
all.
there when you retire if you're defeated. I personally like the idea, and I think it's about all that can be done. I don't think we're in a position.
Well, that way if a fellow wasn't working, or say an office girl didn't work but 2 years, she'd still have an equity, and she'd draw something, all the present get nothing, see.
She has
It's-
2 years
Right,
of a fund that's been
right.
built up.
Right. So you'd have the lump payment that we agree on, The 5% plus any accrued interest is what they would get individually.
Robert, you want to?
Yeah, one observation I would like to have understood, James made mention of the fact that this would include the employees, the secretary is there, until such time as a retirement plan might be negotiated. That is understood, at such time this operation would cease for them, but that would be a vested interest of theirs.
They'd still get their money out of it.
That was the thing I was gonna say.
The only thing I was saying,
Either be used on their retirement plan or given to them.
well, Brother Roberts, the only point I was making, I didn't think we could make available the 2.5% to them now and then have your organization come along and negotiate another and it costs, say, another 4 or 5% and then do both. In this case, then they'd be better off than their elected officer. And,
Well,
you know.
that was what I wanted
Right.
to clarify.
You couldn't have two, I don't
No, I
think.
understood, that wasn't the point I was trying to make.
Well, frankly, I mean, if the board elects to put this, in effect as far as Tom and myself are concerned, it might still be negotiable between all the
Right,
workers and
right.
us, right?
But the committee did recommend that the girls be entitled to belong if they so desired, in the absence of any plan between.
Optional.
Right, right, right.
Purely on an optional basis.
Right.
Compulsory for the officers and optional for the officers.
You won't have too much trouble compelling me to participate. You want, Mr. Chairman? Yeah, he's got a question here, then I'll get you next.
What I wanted to find out, this fund would not ever become self-sustaining, would it?
No, it would require continual contributions by both parties as long as it existed.
Was it looked into it, matter of creating a fund to become self-sustaining?
We didn't go at that angle because, I don't know of any in existence that would be within our reach that you finally get paid up or something,
What you're talking about is what they call an annuity.
Yeah, right.
Well, $10,000 paid in lump sum to a person at age 52 will produce approximately $50 a month at age 65.
Right.
So you haven't got $10,000 to put in for you.
Well, that's the reason I say we didn't pursue it. It seemed beyond our reach to set up just a paid fund and call it quits.
Tyler, you say you got a question?
Mr. Chairman, the motion be in order at this time?
Yes, we can accept the motion.
Well, I would make a motion that, we, as soon as possible, set up a severance fund or a retirement fund, as the brother just mentioned, set up on the order that he has outlined there, to the extent that, the lump sum payment into the fund would be, based on, the length of service with the organization, and that the amount of payment into the savings fund for each person would be, didn't you say 2.5%?
That was our recommendation, yes.
2.5%, of the employees' pay plus an equal contribution from the, organization, would be deposited into some savings or loan association to their account that would be, subject to withdrawal by them, upon retirement or discharge from the organization.
Or quitting.
Or death.
Or quitting.
Or quit.
Yeah, or quitting.
Any reason for leaving.
All right, you've heard the motion, we get a second on that?
Second.
Any discussion on the motion?
What, yes.
All right,
But
Mr. Dunlap.
what about the back pay? That was not mentioned, the back, sum,
Yeah,
back
well,
years.
that,
Do you want to include that in on this?
He just didn't say how much. He mentioned.
Yeah.
What you mean back?
Another with the sum for the past.
The
Based on
amount
the
of
service.
years they have been working with them.
Well, see, I included that in there. In other words, it would be based upon the length of service. For instance,
Well, the amount was
10
mentioned,
years.
25, I believe was mentioned here, but you didn't mention
It
the
would
amount.
be 2.5%, I think.
I mean, though, for the past years, though.
See, and rather than go back on a percentage basis, we was recommending just a lump sum per year value.
Oh, yeah.
the future would be 2.5% and 2.5%. And I just throwed out the figure of $25. If somebody feels another figure, I wouldn't object, but this seemed possible. To get that figure too high, then you wouldn't have the money to make the first deposit. This was the reason I suggested such a low figure.
I would like to include that in my motion then, that we follow along the lines outlined by the brothers there, that we would base it on, $250 a year. Based on
$25 a year.
$25 a year. Well, now, let me do a little figuring here and see what this is gonna add up to.
Well, it's $100 a year.
It amounts to, $250, doesn't it?
Yeah,
No, 12 times, 25.
That'd be 300.
Wait, Claude, it's just $25 per year. If you got 8 years, it's $200 for one person. If it's 10 years, it's, right. It sounds like a range of $1,000, but
Paul and I got 8, haven't we? Got 'em?
I made an estimate.
You going back full-time, yours and his both started full-time, see?
I made a rough estimate, it would be somewhere in the range of 1,000 on that basis, Claude, but I may be off, I don't.
Be 200 for each of them, and
250 for her.
Be 250 for Carolyn, and
5 years for Diane.
then the,
125. I'm
I
probably a
wanted to
little
make a
high.
determination if I think we got the money before I
Right.
put the question, that's what I'm trying to do.
775.
Let's get Brother Woods and then we'll come around.
So I was a little high on the 1,000, I knew it was
I
bigger.
wanna know if this, retroactive deposit, would also apply to, the officers, the employees that participate, will this just be from the, state council fund? What I'm asking is, will the employee be required to retroactive deposit?
No.
No.
No retroactive requirement on the part of the employees or officers.
no matching.
No.
matching on our part?
No, this,
Not on the pay.
not on the $25 a year. This was just a kitty to get you started off for services rendered, so to
I
speak.
understand. Is that clear to everybody?
And then 2.5%.
What does that amount to total, figure?
775.
775, well, I think we can afford that. Brother Davis?
He asked a question I wanted to ask, but wouldn't it be good that if the employee, you, Bob, the lady, wanted to match it, that it would be,
There'd be no objection.
you won't be any objection?
I probably would.
It's your money anyway.
Right.
If
We
you
wouldn't
have no
object.
objection, I'd probably wanna match it myself.
We'd have no
If
objection.
my wife's got that much around.
We just didn't want to make that as a part of the
Right.
bargain and make it maybe an
Part of the
impossible
requirement.
position for some person to
Right.
participate.
We understand what you're saying. We have any further discussion?
Yes, will this money be placed in a trust fund with a supervisory committee or somebody?
Well, yeah, this is part of the recommendation, but we haven't got that motion yet to do that. We'll get that next. James will offer it. And I think that we can probably swing this amount of money, Keith County. We can swing this, I believe, as the starting point. Yeah. All right.
And I really would like to ask the brother to include in his motion that this should begin also April the 1st.
Well, I will also include that in my motion.
So we got a beginning point for it.
Again, April the 1st.
April 1 of
Okay.
this year.
All right, fine.
68.
Good. All right, we have any further discussion?
Are you including the $25 in the motion now?
Yeah.
Yes.
It's been
Right.
discussed.
That's in the motion.
In the motion.
$25 per year per employee.
Pick up the past service, all right? Any
Plus an
further
effective date of
discussion?
April 1.
Shouldn't we have an amendment to this motion for this trust fund that he's talking about, somebody to look after?
Well, we want to take that up in a separate motion.
We just create the fund in this
We'll
one.
do it separately. We've got another motion for that, but this is gonna require setting up a committee, see?
Before we vote on that, if you would, we do have the opportunity to gain monies in this fund through contributions, donations, and, which would increase the correct deal, total overall fund.
What you have in mind.
In other words, if we could, just like we've had some donations in this program here last year, in a period of 20 or 30 years, you have $500 and $600 a year donation into a pension fund. In time, which this money wouldn't belong to anybody, in time, it can become self-sustaining.
Well, you got a
No,
problem
no,
of
no.
having an individual account and some way to figure what each person gets when they leave, and many other angles is the reason we didn't tackle it from that basis.
Really, it isn't a question of being self-sustaining. You're not trying to provide an income to the person of so much money a month.
No, it's a
You're
pension.
providing a lump sum payment
Right.
on leave, on separation from the job, either because you didn't run, got defeated, died, quit, got fired.
Well, the person, once they had the money in their hands, if they wanted to leave part of it invested and draw on it monthly, this would be up to them. They can make any arrangements they want to.
But the organization
Right.
no longer puts anything
Right.
in.
That would cease when they left. Right.
And I think it
we
also,
understand.
I think it also ought to be that organization puts in 2.5%, but if the employee wants to put in 5% or 10%.
But our plan, they couldn't put in less than 2.5. They would have
Put in
to,
2.5
if they participated. I'll tell you why we made that suggestion, Brother Dees. We felt this would be better on payroll deduction. And the secretary could deduct the 2.5% and just make one deposit to the whole account rather than everybody could go be paying this and paying that. You never would keep up with it. And the committee'd have one heck of a problem knowing who had what, you know.
Someone put in 5% more, I think they drew
Any
that
further
out, then
discussion?
you
I
get
think
a lot of
everybody
people
understands the
on
motion, don't they? You ready for the question?
Ready.
Yeah.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Well, raise your hand, I forgot. Everybody raise their hand.
I'm in favor.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. Now, we'll accept the motion to set up the committee that's been mentioned here to make the arrangements and I guess administer the program. Is this what you had in mind?
What the committee had in mind was set up a committee to handle it so that it couldn't be withdrawn except as an official function of the council as a person left. And I think you'd have to have somebody or some group of people designated for this. Now, I think the only workable solution on deposits would be to authorize one of the employees to make the deposits. But you'd only have a stipulation on withdrawal that this would be based upon the actual severance of their employment or office with the council.
Well, the logical thing to do here, I think, is appoint about a 3-man committee on the board. Brother Williams, you want the floor?
I'm not quite clear on this. Is that gonna be separate? Each man gonna have a separate account?
You set up
Yes.
what I assume
I
you'll
mean,
do.
your money will be in your name,
Right.
and Mr. Tom's be in
Right.
his.
How that
Right.
work?
Ms. Phillipson, how?
You set up 4 separate accounts if the girls
Right.
here,
Right.
participate.
Did it mean?
What you'll probably do is set up the committee, if you decide to do this. To make the arrangements, or go down and make the arrangements, and they'll actually from time to time check in on the program and more or less supervise it, is what it would have.
Well,
if I
they-
understand it correctly.
That's right. Then I think they'd even give reports periodically to the
Right.
board as
Like
to
the
the
list
status
board.
of each person's fund, see, so that there'd be knowledge as to what money had been accumulated.
Well, wouldn't the proper person to do that would be out of the office, wouldn't it?
To make the deposits and all, yes.
Well, then why not set it under trustees, just send your trustees to hold a meeting and investigate
way.
instead of
Either way,
committee?
wouldn't matter.
Same thing.
It's the same thing.
4, 3, or 4 trustees. Well, what I mean by that.
That's all that's what we was recommending.
Change,
You make motions about that.
Somebody, I hate
Let's have a little order, please.
Draw out or something, you'd have to have a meeting of the committee, trustees or whatever you have. So,
Let's,
I think the whole thing could be handled right from the office.
Won't be any trouble, it will be handled from the office, but what I think James has in mind here is some kind of a committee of trustees, we'll say, they would make the initial arrangements, probably over here with one of the Savings Loans Association.
decide where to open the account,
Open the
what
account,
what
and then, of course, each
organization.
month, the secretary would make a deposit with them in the
Right.
name of each person.
Right.
And then this committee that you're talking about would check on it every once in a while and keep the board informed as to how we
Status.
progress. And do I understand it?
That's
right?
it, exactly.
What I was down to, when this money, for instance, if a man wants to get his money out, who's gonna write this check?
Well, he can't get out of it, I don't think, until he's retired, quits, or leaves.
Who writes the check then?
Well, it would be.
Whoever's authorized with the organization where you deposit the funds.
Well, it's like you withdraw funds from the savings and loan, you have to,
Whoever
whoever
thinks-
authorized to withdraw the funds would have to sign the necessary papers to withdraw.
Then the
Yeah, committee would have.
question is his own trustee then, I mean.
No.
would it be your own?
Well, in order to,
No.
in order to make, for it to stay there, you'd have to arrange with the savings and loan that in addition to the employee whose name is on the account.
Right.
That some person representing the organization, a trustee designated by the organization, would also have to sign, so you'd have to take two signatures to draw that money out.
Or an official letter from the committee saying to release the funds to this individual, either way.
You'd have to work that out. with
Right.
the savings and loan. What
Well,
savings
that's
require.
Brother Clark?
Due to the fact that that thing might be changing from year to year, different people in the thing, I make a motion that the executive committee serve on that committee, the vice
Let's
president.
put the vice
That's-
president.
well, that's what I
on
meant,
there,
yeah.
5 people.
Yeah, I don't
The
think
five,
that
right.
would be-
You wanna offer a motion that the 5 vice presidents acts
presidents.
as a trustee for the fund? That's
Or
a good.
just-
I'll second that.
Just put the vice president, so they,
The five vice
we may
presidents.
someday change that to 6. or
Right, the
10.
5 vice presidents, that's a good motion. Do we have any second? Well, do we have any further discussion? This means that I understand it, that the 5 vice presidents will check in and make the arrangements and set this up, as we've been talking about, right? Okay. Any further
Chairman?
discussion?
I'd also like to put Brother Schaefer, you know, chairman of that committee on that, so
second.
he's right here really on.
Jackson.
I second it.
You don't have anything to
All right.
Jackson.
That's included in your motion that the 5 vice presidents be named as a trustee and so forth to make arrangements, and Brother Schaefer will be chairman of that committee.
Right.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, there was, one other thinking of the committee, that I don't think has been brought out here, that, in the event of any new employees of the organization, that this plan be explained to them and they be given an opportunity to participate.
Right.
Well, in this motion, I mean, it says
It
employees, so it would be, there would be, this opportunity. All right, we haven't, yeah.
Let me, right before you go too far, I might have stepped over my head down from putting Jack president of that thing. I think we should let the committee pick their chairman, because Jack may not always be on it. When you name him, well, then you gotta make some other arrangement, somebody else taking it. Let the committee pick their
Okay,
chairman.
well,
Well, he'll serve for the next 2 years, it's all right with
That's
me.
right, but if he
Right.
dies or something, though, you'd be out of it.
in other words, you don't want that to be in your motion, if we name the committee attorney, their chairman. Okay, all right, we're ready for the question. Beth said she wants to get on the road to
So
the
do I.
All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Right hand. All opposed, motion carried, and so was. Well, let's see. Next convention, and then I want to bring this matter that I stuck my neck out on the other day, for your attention, concerning the possibility of going to court if the legislature fails to act on reevaluation of property. We discussed this some on the board and felt it ought to come up at this meeting. And I think that we need to act now in case the legislature doesn't act, we wouldn't necessitate calling the board back to get action on something like this.
Well, we're fixing to get into something that costs us lots of money now?
I don't think it would cost an awful lot of money, I frankly don't. And of course, I would check this out, and before anything was done, frankly, I'd report back at least to the executive committee, if not to the full board, before any action was taken, because it would necessitate some cost. You know what I'm talking about, but I'd like to get some authority to move in the event we have to, without having to call a special meeting. In the meantime, if you act here this afternoon, what I'll do is to sit down with a lawyer or two and see what it looked like this might cost in the event we did have to go into court with it. but I'm convinced myself that this threat of court action might move.
Reason I asked the question, I've heard several local unions been in court action, and they've been reporting what the lawyers' fees was because. And I don't think that we, as finance aid, would get into too much on all that.
Brother Edwards?
Mr. Chairman, I'd offer you a motion that this board give you the authority to investigate, and before you make any suit or contract or a suit, that you report to the executive committee what your findings are, and you be governed by the action of that committee, or if that committee sees fit to call the full board into session before you tie the body down to any suit or any contract.
That's a good motion, and it's agreed to what I'm looking for. Okay, we have a discussion on that? Not all in favor of the motion signify it by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, we've got a couple of constitutional amendments up over here, involving 2 or 3 different things, but it's up until this point, they all are items that we've been advocating down through the years, so I don't think there's any necessity for this board to go on record in support of them, but you might want to do that. You got the one that has passed both houses already that lowers the residence requirement from 1 year to 2 at state, and then
You mean from 2 to 1?
From 2 to 1, yeah, from 2 years to 1. Boy, that was a close one. 2 years to 1, and county residency to 6 months, I believe, is the way they find a compromise on it. Then you've got another one that passed the House, and I understand some of you all were over there yesterday when they went out on minority report for annual sessions of the legislature. These 2 items of things that we've been advocating for a number of years. But if you'd like to get a motion in the record that we push for the enactment of these matters in referendum, it would be timely, and it wouldn't be a bad idea to do it here. Therefore, follow the other constitutional amendments, but these are things that we've long advocated. Right?
All he's doing is on that law record that he can vote for. Mr. Chairman, I offer you such a motion.
I have a motion that the state AFL-CIO support at polls the 2 constitutional amendments that I've outlined to you. We have a second of that motion? Second. Any discussion? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand.
Back on the track.
Right. All opposed, the same sign. Motion carried and so ordered. I believe that this is all the business that's got to be handled by this board meeting, isn't it, Tom? We got anything else?
As far as I know.
Is anybody here other than the Kent Convention? Do you want to handle that now or at a later date?
Later date.
I think it'd be better later date.
Later date, but I got a suggestion that you scour this state and see if there's a different place to hold it.
And I'll tell you, this is just a little, for what it's worth. We
This
can't
hotel
wait
is getting
too late,
impossible.
Because if we do, we won't get a place.
Well, let me ask this, what about next year's Coke Convention? Has that been set?
No.
We don't have a Coke convention next year.
You don't have
It'll be 3 more years before we have a Coke convention.
Well, if you want to get a motion here that Brother Knight and myself authorize us to explore possible convention sites and places, that we then,
Next board meeting.
at the next board meeting, we'll have that information available and can set the time and the place if you'd like.
I move we do that.
I'll second it.
Due to the fact that there's so few places to have it now.
This
I
hotel
said, due to
is
the fact that
impossible.
there's so few places to have a space, I think we
Yeah.
need to go ahead and start
Yes,
exploring.
we do. We certainly do. We had a real problem getting this thing scheduled here this time and avoid conflict with other conventions.
Yeah, and this hotel gets higher and the services get worse and the
They don't have
rooms
any
get worse.
competition now. King Edward and the other hotels shut down, well, they can do about as they please here for convention.
We may have to go out of the state to have the state convention.
Well, the motion,
The Rangers, every time you have a convention in town, it fluctuates those rates and varies up.
But they've gone up within the last month.
I think they've gone up
We
on
had
the
our
range
state
period.
convention.
They have.
Well, the motion is that Brother Knight be authorized to explore possible convention sites, and that we report back at the next meeting the name, the time, and the place. Are you ready for the motion?
Yes, sir.
All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed, same sign. Motion carried and so ordered.
Mr. Chairman, I got,
For special room rates when you make your convention.
Well, they went up here in the last, 3 weeks, I paid $9 for some, now it's 10 something.
Right.
Brother Clark wants the floor.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to see what the feeling is a little bit, and might make a motion in a minute, but, the constitution of the AFL-CIO looks like it's about impossible. In fact, I don't know what the solution is to it, but the thing's been drawn up a long time, and, it's hard to get changes in it. I did wonder what the possibilities be, maybe, what do you think about you getting you as chairman, appointing a committee, and maybe Brother Knight is co-chairman of it, cross-section of the state, and go into that constitution and see what can be worked out. And, you'd have 2 years to do it before the next convention, and, come up with some kind of a solution to get representation. I don't know what it'd be with it, enlarging what you got, or cutting down, or whatever you got, but to kinda to, equalize it anyhow.
You talking about it for to make up the boards?
That's right.
You talking about a study and overhaul of the Constitution?
No, as far as, representation in parts of the state. No, I don't care what it did, I mean, just so some kind of solution could be worked out. I don't know if there is one or not, but I'd like to, if there is one, I'd like to see
You
it.
don't mean representation in the convention, you mean on this board.
That's right. On this board, try to get some kind of solution worked out in that thing where you can have everybody, right now, you don't have anybody out of the 4 congressional districts on the executive committee. That's a pretty big district, so we're running a lot of labor in that area without anybody on the committee. And when you're interviewing state office and things like that, when you use a committee like that, instead of going to expense of the whole board, and then you wouldn't have anybody out of that group. A little bit of discrimination there, and, I don't know if it can be remedied, but I think maybe we got 2 years to try to, work out something on the thing, and.
We can get some copies of other constitutions, understanding about it, and I understand they worked out something in Oklahoma that, might be worth looking into. I'll be glad to set up a committee if the board wants to.
I'd like to make a motion that you set up a committee and investigate that and see what can be done about it, and not use any of your present committee, board or committee.
Not any of this committee?
That's right.
Someone outside of,
Someone
of the
outside.
executive board?
You might get a better feeling of it.
You offer that as a motion?
I do.
You get a second? Any discussion on that motion? There would naturally be members of affiliated organizations.
I don't know if it's on the motion or not, but he did mention in his, change there, about, interviewing of the candidates. I think that there could be some consideration given to it when the board does meet, that it would, bring, a representation from each CLU district, interviewing the candidates.
Well, let me say this board names a screening committee, the executive board does. And the last time, the executive board named the executive committee to act in his behalf as a screening committee, so this is a procedural following. If you want to expound on it the next time, then it'll be your prerogative.
The last time you had one out of every congressional district, this time you don't.
I see. Well, anyhow, that's the way it'll be handled. When we get around to it, it'll be presented to you for a decision, you'll make the decision, and I agree with you. You need representation from all areas of state on this screening committee. We have any further discussion on that motion? Jack, did you want the floor? You ready to vote? All in favor of the motion signify by raising your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Does anyone else have anything to bring up before we adjourn?
Mr. Chairman, I do. I think it's time that the council officers took a long-range look at its financing and give some consideration to, in a place of continuously, year after year, paying about $3,000 to $4,000 rent, seeing if it's not possible to buy a piece of land and build a state headquarters that you would get paid for in about 10 or 12 years, and then I think over the long range, your financial position would improve considerable. I think it'd be more convenient for the people who work there, for the people who call there, and to run the state's council's offices from. And I don't even know the rent figure, but I know it's somewhere in the range of $3,500 to $4,000 a year, which means about every 10 years you spend another $40,000 for rent, and it's going right down the drain. You got nothing to show for it. So I, for one, would be interested in a study being conducted to see if it's possible to change that situation.
I certainly agree with you.
You want to offer a motion that we do a study on this?
I so move.
I'll second.
Got a second? Any discussion on that motion? All in favor of the motion, raise your right hand. All opposed? Motion carried and so ordered. Now, who's going to do the study? Me and Mr. Knight, you want us to investigate
It's fine with me. It's just
possibilities? Well, we're gonna have a time on this one. They live on the north side of town, we live on the south side.
Since you don't have anything
Well,
else to do,
go east then.
Well, what we'll do here.
That's good.
You live out that way.
We'll try to see what we can come up with as far as possible sites and cost items and stuff like this, and then we'll probably see what some of the other organizations are doing, what they've got, and we'll bring it back to you at a future meeting. Do we have anything else to bring up? Anyone else want to bring up a matter?
we might have a place we sell chemicals.
What do you say?
He might have one he'd sell you, he said.
Might have one themselves, okay.
Look out.
Yeah, something I want to mention, I realize, you want to adjourn, I do too. Just briefly, first, I want to thank you myself for your kindness here going toward us, financially speaking here, this afternoon. Certainly appreciate it. I want to mention this business of affiliation again. I realize all of us have all we can do. But this is something that bugs me, I'm sure it bugs you. Now, the increase in affiliation is almost 100% a result of the organizing effort. You know, every affiliation that we've acquired recently has been a newly organized local. Now, we've got people that are satisfied, apparently, they've got pretty good wage rates, everything going pretty good, and they hang with everybody else. That seems to be the attitude. I like to urge each of you, as members of the executive committee, the executive board, to, as you get a chance, put the pressure, so to speak, on these unaffiliated locals in your area. And if you can get a meeting, if you can get a few minutes, if you can get a meeting with them, we'd appreciate it if you can make the meeting. We'll see that you have some affiliation blanks, each of you, and if it's necessary for one of us to come, if you'll notify us, might have to have a few days, a week or two notice, we'll try to get that. But we would like to keep the pressure on these people this year. Since the first of the year, I wrote the officers of every unaffiliated local in Mississippi a copy of that letter, along with a letter to the president of each international, and a copy to Brother Smith's office here. And I got replies from about 6 unions. We got 2 or 3 affiliations as a result of it. Otherwise, didn't hear a word. So this is something that I think we have to keep plugging on, and we appreciate you doing whatever you do. In some instances, you can have a lot more influence with some in your area than we can. So we'd appreciate anything you can do.
Let me advise the new members of the board, you are not aware of this, we sent out a quarterly standing of affiliates to all of the board members. affiliated will not show on the stand. It shows you the status of each individual local as far as, you know, if they're delinquent or anything. And the reason for that is that you will have, information available. You'll know who's affiliated and who's not. Now, we send that quarterly standing to all of the regional directors, and it has brought results. The result of that, several of the unions, when the local gets in arrear, drops out, they go to work on it. The rubber work is a good example. That's how we got all the rubber work this year, is by sending that quarterly standing out to the regional director. Yeah, brother.
Tom, I'd like to ask a question of Tom. I know there's one group of people in the state of Mississippi that has high regard for you and Claude both, and I believe y'all have been asked and have addressed their conventions in the past, but they are not affiliated, and my contact with them is that every time they get a chance, they go to hear you and Claude. That's the letter carriers and the postal clerks in all the post offices around over the state. Now, there's a group of people that both of y'all know, and I believe if we go back home and make a concerted effort on this group of people, they know who we're talking about when we mention Tom Knight and Claude Ramsey. They know you, so I believe if we make a little concerted effort, we can get that group of people affiliated.
It should be done, E.V. We've been before them, their state meetings, we've been on our knees to them.
We have put on programs.
We got the largest local, the one here in Jackson is the only one we've been able to reach. They promise you anything.
That's right.
But that's it.
Me, that's a good thought here. I'm glad you mentioned this, Herbert. Well, I met with the government employees groups on the coast about 2 months ago. They were having a fight down there with an independent organization. We went in and helped do some work to try to hold it. There's about 2,500 or 3,000 people on those bases down there, and the regional director assured me that he was going to put those local unions in. He's going to get them affiliated here and at the local level. Billy Williams went with me to those meetings, and I would, this is some place that you can help us out and stay on this.
Well, I contacted him last week. You mean the AFL-CIO?
Yeah, the American Federation of Government Employees.
Yeah, they told me they were affiliated.
They're not affiliated with anybody.
They told me they were, I said, the state of Mississippi said, yes.
No,
now, I'll go back on them.
Well, yes, but you see, let me explain something to you folks here this afternoon.
They have a state council of their own, though.
No. Let me tell you what you find quite often in this thing with a lot of people, and some of them even union officers.
Well, that's what
their international union is affiliated with the National AFL-CIO. And they got AFL-CIO. They think that they are part of this organization because their international union is affiliated at the national level. I had a guy with the one of the telegrapher outfits here, Tom. Telegrapher. So what was it? Maybe it was. And over here at Mississippi State, when we had that meeting to talk with the dean, want to know why he hadn't been getting information out of our office. I said, are you not affiliated? He said, yeah, we're an AFL-CIO union. I said, yeah, but you're not affiliated. I said, the state organization, you pay dues into it. And we'd be happy to have you affiliated. But you see, you've got this thing. A lot of people don't know this.
How about in Meridian in your discussion? Do they come up?
We haven't heard from them yet anymore. Talking about the woodworkers?
No, these government employees, they got a local there in Meridian.
No, we don't have any of them.
Well, the secretary of the one in the Veterans Administration is with me. I'll pick him up in Heidelberg. He's the one that told me that they was affiliated.
Well, I left them affiliation blanks down there, copies of the Constitution and everything.
And also, 795 told me Friday in Mobile at a meeting we was that they had affiliated.
Well, maybe they voted, they never have sent it.
No, they said they sent but I asked
They must be mailing all this to the wrong address.
Well, I asked Oliver. I asked Oliver himself. He sat next to me at the meeting.
795 ILA?
Yeah. He told me, he says, we are affiliated, cause I gave him a blank, and he told me that we were affiliated, and I said, well, you going to the convention? I don't believe so, but I'm
They done
wondering.
way down the road.
And all this business.
They were completely out, they've been out for years.
I know it, well, you know, when French was in that right,
How about?
Chairman, some of us got a long way to go.
Yes, I know you fellas,
Right.
unless we've got some business to come up, we're gonna, Brother Dees?
I wanna make a suggestion that I'm hoping will work.
All right.
If us people attend the CLU meetings in our area, know of a local union that's not affiliated with the state.
Yeah.
And if we can pick up the expense of a delegate from that local to bring them to a state convention, and let them see what progress is going on and what's happening, then they go back home feeling like a scalp or a rat, they know we're supporting and we're getting benefits to them, and they'll want to affiliate. And
You
I'm
did
hoping
that.
that'll happen in Corinth this time.
Didn't you do that?
Yeah,
See that day local?
yeah.
Yeah, that was real good. Anything else?
Make a motion with that.
Motion is adjourned. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Well, we'll see you later.
Everybody see me that needs the money.
See you later.